What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Never Lag. It's a brand new day, new podcast, and we're going to talk about the Game Awards that just
Brand
happened.
new day, brand new dollar.
Brand new dollar from right here from Never Lag. Coming to you live, not really, recorded.
Coming to you live, pre-recorded, 1 week late, past the Game
Pre-recorded
Awards.
and edited all of our mistakes out. We're going to talk about the Game Awards that happened pretty recently, still pretty fresh off the dome here, and I have gone through and created a list of everything that happened chronologically because no one on the internet seems to be able to do that for me. Complete with a coffee stain, which you probably can't see. But
The internet can't do that.
Internet is not AI is not capable of that. Internet is what's it for? I don't know.
That's how we know you're human.
That's exactly the coffee stain and the paper list. AI can't do that yet. So, or the handwritten. I don't really know where I'm going with that.
That's another sign. AI would have been way more comprehensible.
That's true. That's true. I'm human.
Confirmed. Don't worry, everyone. Our podcast will be written by AI before too long. But for now, it's just us.
Do you think AI will get to the point where they're actually like emulating humanity in that way, like making mistakes, sounding dumb? Because humans want content from humans.
Yes, I think they will, because they want to capture the efficiency of AI and not have to pay people, but they learn people.
They want the human element.
Yeah, so I do think AI is going to do some of those things. Yes.
Yeah.
Which will be hilarious.
Show is actually AI.
It'll be hilarious when like our self-driving AI car gets in a car crash.
It's in a wreck.
In a drunk driving accident, just so that it seems more real.
It seems more human.
That way we trust it.
Oh my gosh.
You know? That way we trust it.
All right. Well, let's see which side of this is the front. Okay, we started with the pre-show. Let's do overview, over thoughts. This is excellent. I think you agree, but you can go ahead and wax poetic in a second here. I just think that this was the best gaming showcase that we've had in years, and I will say it's the first time since E3 that it has felt like we're ever going to get this again. Since E3 kind of disbanded, and that was this whole catastrophic mess, and then COVID, all these things happened. It kind of felt like, man, are we ever going to be able to get everyone back together and have just a celebration of games that feels notable and worthy and has kind of this weight behind it and this atmosphere? And the answer was no for a long time until this year. And hats off to Geoff Keighley. Man, he finally did it. We didn't get everyone here. We didn't get like Nintendo or Xbox as much. But with what he put out this year, it makes me wonder, maybe next year, I think Nintendo and Xbox might show up in a little bit more. It might continue to snowball in the way that, once something becomes a certain echelon, more people want to be a part of it. More people will save things. We saw Sony even announcing things here that normally we would think, no, Sony's going to keep that for themselves, that we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought this was 11 out of 10, 10 out of 10. This was just excellent. Pretty well paced. Got a little, the middle to like third quarter section felt a little, had a lull, which I thought was an odd place to have the lull. I would think that would be a little earlier or something, but overall, I thought the pacing was good. This is also the first time I've ever enjoyed the non-game announcement parts of the show, at least in a very, very long time, since like 2016.
The E3 days. Yeah,
exactly. There were moments that we'll talk about that had nothing to do with game reveals that I was like glued to the screen, even emotionally impacted in moments when a lot of things about the industry we'll get into. So I just thought this was pretty well-rounded and fantastic on every level.
7 out of 10. No, I'm just kidding. I just want to be a contrarian. This was really good. Like you said, I haven't felt this way since like the big E3 days in 2016 or the mid 2010s. And after the couple of years after COVID, it kind of felt like we were never going to get back to that, which was a real bummer because the video games industry has gotten so big, and there are so many cool aspects to it. It's really fun to have a celebration of that and to like see all of the people working on these games across the different, verticals of the industry, and to like celebrate the games that we think are awesome. Like that's the type of thing we do in the podcast, is like we like to talk about the things that are cool and we try and rank them, and it's fun to have like kind of a ceremony for that, where everyone kind of comes together. So this was super cool. It's impressive how much Geoff Keighley was able to pull off with this one. And I think I hope this is enough that we're gonna maybe see some presence from Xbox and Nintendo in the future, because it's like if you have this much attention on something, why wouldn't you want to be a part of it? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, compared to some of the previous stuff we've like showcases and Summer Games Fests and things like that, I would definitely give this a 10 out of 10, like easy. And yeah, I think there was a bit of a lull in the middle, but at the same time, I don't know how you have this long of an extended thing
It was
and not.
long. I didn't know it was gonna be this long.
I think it kind of had to be, because they're doing two things. They're doing a bunch of big reveals,
Yeah.
and they're
I
doing
liked it. I actually thought
awards.
it was great. I
Yeah,
mean,
I liked
maybe you cut a
the
half an
mixture.
hour off, but I thought it was pretty
I thought it
good.
was fine, because I mean, there's a couple of things at play. Is like they're trying to get to all the winners of the awards, and I feel like they streamlined that
Which is
for
funny
the
because they even rushed through many of those as they did in previous years for the
yeah,
length of the
but they
show. There's times where they're rattling off. No one gets to come on stage, but
for every
still
single
overall, I thought they
award,
did a good job.
I think that's fine. Like I is just a like gamer and viewer, like I don't necessarily need to hear a speech about um the person with best art direction, like per se. um I wouldn't hurt, but it's fine. I think they kind of saved it for the bigger awards to like have those speeches and stuff, and I think that's okay, because they're also like, I think they're trying to balance like showing the new stuff, which is part of what's exciting. It's a mixture of like recognizing and celebrating the past year and then looking forward. And then some of the live performance like ceremony stuff is in there, and then they got to make some money too. Like something like this is expensive, and so I get it. Like they need to have
The ads were
segments for.
fairly unintrusive and minimal. I thought
Yeah,
this year though,
they were
like not
fine.
bad at
Like
all. So
for an event like this to exist, like they need to make some money to fund it somehow. So I'm perfectly fine with all of that. And I thought it was a little long, but if this is just like a once a year video game bonanza, then I'm fine with tuning into it. So
yeah, I'm
it,
kind
it
of
was
curious
good.
to see with how well the show went off. E3 was always kind of the late spring, early summer. That was everyone kind of saved their stuff for that time of year, and so part of this, there's so many moving parts to taking the baton from E3, so to speak. But I wonder if we are going to see the industry kind of slowly shift to all of our announcements now are at the Game Awards. It becomes more of the E3. I'm curious, will he continue to do Summer Games Fest next year? Will it be much lighter? Um, but it's just interesting to see because,
Yeah.
a decade ago, you announce your games, you talk about games in the spring, and all the games came out in the winter holiday season. And now we've seen, I mean, how many Februaries in a row have we seen just like jam packed
Yeah.
with
February,
the biggest
March.
titles of the year?
Yeah. February,
And it kind
March
of
is
feels
huge.
like the year is flipping in this really
It
weird way
does.
because of
Yeah.
the circumstances and game awards playing a role in that. So, will we continue to see I mean, obviously, there's always going to be holiday games because that is a season where people are buying gifts and buying a lot of stuff. But we really have seen the video game industry kind of flip into having a lot more releases earlier in the year. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Curious to see how this if this can continue in 2025 or if this was just kind of like lightning strike
I know,
situation
kind
here.
of what is this just like the big 10th anniversary? Like, this was the bigger and better version, but not every year can be like this. Or is this kind of the template, and then it's going to like adjust Summer Games Fest and things are going to have to reorient around it. Probably
Yeah.
a little bit somewhere in between. Um, and it kind of depends on what's going on in the industry too, right? Like you can only have as much of a ceremony as there are things to talk about, but I'm sure there'll be things to
There's
talk about.
always stuff though. So we can kick off here with the pre-show, which I thought they did a better job with this than in past years. I don't remember what they used to call it, but it felt like they gave this pre-show a little bit more emphasis and weight. And there was actually some notable things that happened in it. It wasn't just a complete write-off. Um, so I think the first announcement I've written down is the Ninja Gaiden Ragebound game that's being made by the devs who made Blasphemous 1 and 2. Which this one didn't do anything for me. I have no tie to the Ninja Gaiden franchise. As far as a retro 2D fast paced kind of action game. It looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the team from Blasphemous, I've heard nothing but good things about both of those games. They seem to
Yeah.
be kind of peak when it comes to making those type of games. So
Yeah. Blasphemous has been on my list for a while. My brother really likes those games. But I haven't had time to play it yet. Ninja Gaiden, it's one of those properties like that I've been aware of for a very long time, but I never really played for whatever reason. But same thoughts as you. It looks cool. It's not something that was like I was waiting for personally, but it looks neat and it seems like a lot of people are excited about it.
yeah, and I mean that's going to be kind of a theme here. There's a lot of really games kind of coming back or coming back in a new form in this.
Mm-hmm.
Really old games that I didn't have emotional ties to, so they didn't impact me in the way that maybe they impacted
A
some
lot of
people.
people,
But
yeah.
yeah,
There's a couple notable ones that we'll get to where everyone was like
yeah,
losing their minds, and I was like,
you're
man,
just like
it's
I
like
don't.
I don't even know what this is, so I'm gonna have to
I
do some
know.
homework. And like I'm excited for it because if it was that good and everyone's excited, it's probably gonna be cool. But there
Who
were a few
knows?
throwbacks that are coming back that I am like, okay,
Yeah.
that's neat.
So the first award was for best fighting game, and that one went to Tekken 8. My only thought on I don't play a lot of fighting games, but I had heard a lot of buzz about Rivals of Aether, which is it's more of a platform fighter like Smash Bros.
Mm,
And the first game, Rivals of Aether, was very beloved, and they just came out with a sequel a couple months ago, and it's popping off. People love it. It's got great reviews on Steam. I heard a lot of people saying that this one really got snubbed, and like I think it was Multiverses wasn't even received well at all. Like was kind of a disaster. So
yeah, so it's kind of like
kind of
why is
funny that
Multiverses on the list and the other one you mentioned isn't
it's
even
almost like
like
they just couldn't fill the roster, and they filled it with Multiverse and
well, and it
didn't
kind
know
of makes
about Rivals of Aether or whatever. So
I kind of wonder with some of these things too, like the closer you get to the awards for games that come out and
yeah, when's the cutoff?
yeah, exactly. Because it's, you think about like
Which feels kind of silly.
Indiana
It's like
Jones came out right before and it's getting really good reviews. And it's like, that feels
that
like
one I get though.
obviously
That's
it's way too,
December.
I agree. I'm just saying
But
it's
like
like,
some of these feel like the cutoff is like September, and it's like, all right, so
yeah.
our game awards is 9 months of the year because then we
Well,
forget about everything September through December next year. So
yeah, it's like, do we include
it's
that
just
in
like a
next
no
year's
man's
thing? That
land.
feels kind of weird. Like, I feel like it should go up to December,
I feel like game
honestly.
awards should be like the first, I don't know, maybe the first week when everyone's back from New Year's, like in January. I think that makes the most sense, and then we can
Right. That way
really
you can
have
get
the
the whole
year.
year. Yeah.
Like Neverlag, we do things correctly here. We wait for the
Yeah. They
year
should be
to
2 weeks
finish.
late after everything, like we are,
2 to
because
4,
that is logical. Um,
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know much about a lot of these fighting games, but like there are a few categories where I felt that way where I'm like, man, this one game I feel like wasn't even nominated,
Oh yeah,
and that
we'll
feels
get there.
crazy. So, but
There's some passion further along.
in terms of the winner, I've heard a lot of good things about Tekken 8. I don't play a ton of fighting games, so I didn't really
You
care
had it
one way or
in
the other.
Fantasy Critic, and it got really good
It did
score, I
good.
think.
Yeah, I forget
So
exactly what it was high 80s or low
high
90s. I
80s or
forget.
low 90s, yeah,
So it did good. People liked it, and it makes sense that it won
yeah.
from what I know.
From there, we got just some smaller. Well, it depends on who you are, but there was a reveal of a game called One Move Away, which really looked like a VR game, but apparently it isn't. It's where you're like
Yeah,
you're literally moving, which is people's least favorite thing to do on the
but
entire.
I'm not gonna lie. I saw it and
It does look cathartic and
I kind of want to try it. It looks a
I
little
know
fun,
it does look like it
a
would
little
satisfy that part of
satisfying.
your brain that
To be fair, part of what sucks about moving is like
Tetrisy,
heavy stuff and like going upstairs and
That's true. You
like
take the weight out, it's
you
not so
take
bad.
the
Maybe
weight and any physical activity out of it.
it is just funny though to me. Like
Can you imagine playing Tears of the Kingdom if you had to climb everything? It'd be a
no,
different
you'd be dead.
it'd be a different experience.
You'd be dead. And then we also got Slay the Spire 2,
Yeah.
which I think was having some development issues because of that whole engine debacle that happened a while back with was it Unity, or I can't remember who it was who really crapped the bed with trying to charge people
I think
retroactively
it
for
was
their games or
Unity.
something.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
So that's exciting for people who, I mean, that game is kind of, it's a classic at this point. People love that
Yeah.
game. I've never tried it. Best VR game was the next announcement. Batman Arkham Shadow won that one. I don't really have anything to say on that. I mean, we don't have any VR. So I have heard,
You're not a
can't find
VR household.
yeah, we don't believe in VR yet.
Not in my house. Just
Oh, here
kidding.
it is. Here it is.
Yeah. Um,
I had heard really good things about Asgard's Wrath too,
yeah, I remember hearing
and
some good
then
stuff about
Metal
that.
Hellsinger actually looks like it would probably be pretty cool in VR. But
Yeah.
so actually, from an outsider perspective, it kind of looks like a pretty competitive list this year, which is funny. In 2024, I wouldn't think that there was. I would have thought you had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find 5 VR games to even nominate this year. But
It's kind of cool because it's like I like that it exists. I just never play it.
I just want it to be
I
better. It just
I
feels like
want it to
it's
be
not
better.
getting better.
Yeah,
It's
well,
been like a decade of it being kind of feeling the same a little bit.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But cool. Yeah,
Um, from
man.
there we from there we got Dave the Diver in the Jungle announcement, which is another DLC for Dave the
Mm-hmm.
Diver. That one's coming late 2025 and continues my issue of not knowing when to start this game because I missed the initial wave,
Same.
and
Yeah.
I own it, and I've been kind of waiting for like some sort of push to be like, all right, it's time to jump back into this game, and they keep announcing new content for it, and I'm like, well, I guess I should just wait until all the new content's
Wait
out.
until
I
there's
don't
new
know.
content. Yeah. When is this? So it's an expansion. Okay.
It's
So
an
yeah, that is
expansion,
kind
yeah.
of like it is kind of one of those things. You're like, maybe I should wait. I don't know.
The one
And
thing I will say is it does feel. I haven't played the game. I don't know a lot about it. It does feel the way it's shown feels separate, like a different location.
yeah, you're going to
In
a
that you would
jungle.
finish everything and then you go to the jungle and it's completely different. So maybe late
You'd probably be
2025. I
fine.
don't know if I'm going to wait that long. Not it's not like I don't have a shortage of games to play, but
Yeah. You'd probably be fine either way, but I'm interested in that one too. I also haven't had a chance to play Dave the Diver yet, but it looks cool. It looks like a great Steam Deck game. So
yeah. We got a reveal for Thick as Thieves. I don't remember the developer behind this one, and this one to me had bust written all over it. Like
yeah,
I hope the best for it. It actually looked kind of cool, but man, it looks like one of those games that comes out, has a couple hundred players, and then dies in a week or two. It's a multiplayer competitive heist game where you are working alone but competing against other people to pull off a heist. And
cool
you
concept.
know, it's a cool concept. I feel like
Yeah,
we've had a few games in recent years try this concept. None have stuck the landing or gained a player base, and I think we will at some point. Maybe this is it, but man, it's just hard to like. If I'm a studio, I'm not betting the dollars
yeah,
on making a game like this because the multiplayer market is just so hard to break into.
it's so hard.
And
It's like
this,
crazy lucrative if you manage it, but so hard to do.
yeah, 5 out of 1,000 make it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, tough odds, but yeah, I'm interested to see how it is received because again, the concept felt pretty neat. I was like, that's kind of a cool idea, but we'll have
yeah.
to see.
Next award was best esport, and it went to League of Legends. It feels like this just bounces back and forth between like two games every year.
Yeah,
Um,
my guess was League of Legends or Valorant.
yeah, not that I play any of these games.
I don't play. Yeah, I don't play any of them either.
We got an announcement for a Pac-Man game in 2024, and man, did it not look like Pac-Man. This was the weirdest.
It was weird.
I don't know what to think about it. It's called Pac. It's called Shadow Labyrinth. It's not even called Pac-Man. Is not even in the title.
It's
Is
not. It's.
Pac-Man like public domain? How did this happen?
I have no idea. I mean,
I doubt it is. It
this
can't be.
is
It's not
like
100 years.
this isn't really a Pac-Man game so much as it's a game inspired or it's like
It's
making
like
an
if you want
homage to
lemon in your
Pac-Man.
tea.
Yeah,
Like we just want some Pac-Man in this Metroidvania.
it's more just like referencing it. It's like, what if your weapon was like made of
I
a
mean, there was one
Pac-Man?
section where Pac-Man was like actually
That's
used as a
true.
traversal mechanic, eating the
Yeah,
little
that's true.
nubs or whatever they're called. I don't know. This was really weird. The dark evil Pac-Man at the end was kind of cool, but like,
That's cool. Yeah.
I
I'm
don't know
intrigued
if it
by
was. I don't know if it
like
was
I
skill up or someone said it just felt like someone wanted to make a Metroidvania, or the team that had Pac-Man just wanted to make a Metroidvania, and they
yeah.
were like, it's also Pac-Man, like
And hey, if that's what they want to do, I would rather them do that and make a cool Metroidvania that has like a kind of quirky little different mechanic to it than
Pac-Man
make
add-on.
a
Yeah.
new Pac-Man that is just like not inspired or anything. So
I mean, if it's
I have to
good,
say,
I'll be there.
I like Metroidvanias and I was intrigued. I was
So,
like, that looks kind of cool. I'm gonna keep an eye on it and I'm certainly not against playing it if it gets some good
and I'm
reception.
also
So
like, I'm interested in studios doing this. Like, if you have an IP, do something really weird with it, like a completely different genre, just something
That helps keep it
strange
fresh. Yeah.
and see what works. You know, throw some things at the wall. Smaller projects, obviously. This looks like a smaller project. Don't put 5 years, $200 billion into something, but like make a small project with
Yeah.
your IP that's weird, and
Yeah. See,
see if something
I think this is a much smarter idea than the studio saying, what if we made a multiplayer competitive live
heist
service
Pac-Man game
heist Pac-Man game where you compete as
where you're
Pac-Men
trying
and
to go get those
Pac-Women,
little fruits, but
and you
there's a
got
bunch
to
of other Pac-Men.
and you get weekly fruit boxes, and if you get
Oh
the golden
god,
banana, you know what I mean? So it could be, this actually gives me hope.
that's true. Yeah, I prefer stuff like this. It was weird, but I can be into weird. So we had games for Impact and Neva, which everyone seems bent on saying Neva. I swear it's Neva, but
I think it's
I don't know.
Neve.
Never. I think it's
Neve.
Never. Um,
Um,
I can't
yeah,
find games
Neva
for
kind of
Impact for
feels
the
like
full
you're just
list.
like saying never.
Like you're very lazily saying never.
Yeah. That's not what we're talking about, though. Yeah, games for Impact. I forget like what like
This list is so unhelpful, man. Ongoing game. Oh, games for Impact. Here we go. So Neva won. Shoot, yeah, I couldn't tell you half these games.
I
Life
forget
is
what
Strange
this
feels
was
like it's always
quantified.
on there obligatorily. Like I don't
I
think
forget, is this quantified by like
no one
representation
knows.
or like
Nobody knows.
inclusiveness, or which is
Nobody
already
knows
still kind of
because
broad.
I haven't played Neva, but from what I've heard, it's just a heartwarming game about a dog. So
Yeah,
I think this this
it's just
award
the feel.
literally
Is this
just
just
ends
the
up
feel
being
good?
does it make you feel something?
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's a game for Impact. Where I think the initial idea behind this award was something that makes a statement culturally or politically, or something that makes a socio whatever statement, and instead
Yeah.
it just kind of ends up being, did this game make did it pull at your hearts? Did you cry? Did you laugh? I don't know. I don't care what it is. I just wish with a lot of these
It's a
awards, I wish
tough
we could
one.
get a little bit more like zero in on what these awards are,
What is
split
it
these
doing?
awards
What
up
is
a
this
little
actually
better.
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, because I don't care either, and I think that makes sense as why Life is Strange is on it, because I think that's trying to say like social. It's like those games have social commentary in them, so it's like, okay, it makes sense that those are on there.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Senua's Saga has like mental health stuff in it. Tales of Kinzarazao, I think, is like environmental. I haven't played Neva yet. Maybe there's like
It's
an
also
environment.
African, like
Yeah,
African heritage type stuff.
and
I don't
maybe
know what
Neva has
Indica is.
maybe.
The funny
I mean,
thing I've
maybe
heard
Neva
I've
has
heard
some
about Life of
environmental stuff,
Strange
but
double exposure is that it doesn't actually have a message. It's unlike the other ones, and it just kind of is on here because it's Life of Strange, but I can't speak to that
they've
personally. But I
they've
thought that
gotten
was
it
kind of
into their
funny.
brand that they're just
Yeah.
like,
They're just a
yeah,
game for Impact, whatever
we're a
they
game
do.
for
So
Impact, even if we don't. Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
don't know. I haven't played it either, so I don't know. But yeah, sure. Neva.
Um
I mean, Neva looks cool. I'm excited to play that one, so I'm glad it won something.
yeah, me too. That's on my pretty immediate backlog here for to start 2025. The next award was accessibility, and that one went to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Yeah.
Um, which I'm trying to even remember. I know there were a lot of options for difficulty.
Yeah. The problem is I don't
Um,
play with a lot of accessibility options, so I wouldn't know. But
yeah, I
I'll
couldn't
take their
even
word
speak
for
to
it.
this. I know Ubisoft actually tend to be the ones who do a lot with this, so it's no surprise to see
I remember
Outlaws on
hearing
there.
Dragon Age and Outlaws had a lot of accessibility stuff, and I do kind of remember that discussion around Prince of Persia a little bit. But
Yeah,
cool. I mean, good. That's good.
and these
Yeah.
are all rattled off really quickly.
Yeah.
Which we kind of mentioned at the start here, but I think what's interesting is I don't understand how they decide who gets to come on stage and who doesn't. It feels like some of the bigger awards will get lumped in with the smaller ones and rattled off.
Yeah, there were a few
And
ones that felt bigger that they just rattled off, and I
yeah,
was like,
because
oh,
this
huh.
next one here, and maybe they just don't care about it. I don't know. It just feels really haphazard, and I there's no pattern to it. But the next award was best family game, which I'm trying to find the full list.
Princess Peach Showtime, Super Mario Party Jamboree,
There it is.
Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Plucky Squire, and then Astrobot.
And to me, if you asked me in a vacuum, I would say, "Oh, this is someone comes on stage for best family game of the year." It's
I would
usually
think so.
Nintendo's opportunity to come on stage, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Yeah.
the winner was Astrobot, though, which kind of took Nintendo's lunch money this year
Yeah.
for anything Nintendo could have won. And there's not even a game that's close to best family game for me on this list. Jamboree's all right, but it's also very frustrating. Echoes of Wisdom is probably the closest one. I thought Plucky Squire was really not that great. So
Showtime didn't review super well.
Showtime, yeah, super bombed. Astrobot
Yeah,
was excellent. So
yeah,
its
Astrobot
first
makes
award of
sense.
many.
Astrobot makes sense.
And then we wrapped up our pre-show with, and I heard going into the show, we're going to find out what's next from the Sifu developers, and that was one of
Okay,
my
yeah.
biggest. That was one of my biggest. I was like, oh heck yeah, I am super psyched for this. What's it going to be? And then we got this reveal for Rematch, a soccer game, and the whole time. I don't know if they said who was developing it. I was watching the whole thing going, please don't be Sifu. Please, this can't be. It looks like Sifu
Hmm.
art style.
Yeah,
So I was like, oh, shoot, is this it? Like, hopefully this isn't it.
that's
Turns out
it.
it was. It was. I don't know the general sentiment on this. It looks, if I'm to take my expectations out, it looks kind of cool as a
That's how I
soccer
feel.
game. It looks like they're taking the why do I always forget the name of the car soccer game? Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
oh, Rocket League.
Rocket League. It looks like they're doing Rocket League with people, which I didn't know you could play that game with people. But
We've come full cycle. I just
we've
love
come
that
yeah,
Rocket
it's
League
so
is
funny.
soccer with cars, and now this game is Rocket
What an
League with
interesting
people.
idea.
Yeah.
I do like that it's over the shoulder. It looks like you're controlling one player. I don't know if that means like, is your team going to be made up of four other people? That could be interesting. And it kind of, my brain starts thinking about like, could we enter an era where sports games become more realistic in that sense, where you literally play one player on a sports team
Yeah.
of like 11 other people? Think football. Maybe I'm a lineman and I just play as a lineman. I don't know if people would want to do that, but that's an interesting thought where it's like
Hmm.
sports games have been very arcade like in that you play as the whole team. Could we begin a new thing where you play as one position for a
Yeah.
sport? Intriguing. Anyways, that's a side thought. This looks really cool. I mean, it's going to come down to how it plays, but at the end of the day, I'm just bummed because I loved Sifu so much. It might be in my top 10 games of all time. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it at all, not even close. And so I guess my hope is that this is a side project, but I just don't see that being. It's been years since Sifu came out, and they're not a huge studio. So this was this made me sad in my heart
Well,
a
I feel
little
like
bit.
if you do an online sports game, you're kind of banking on making some ongoing money from that. Probably, like, why wouldn't you? Not that I think it'll be monetized
Oh yeah, totally.
like
This is going to
FIFA or
be
anything, but
yeah,
so that kind of makes me think that even if this is going to be somewhat of a focus for them for a while, I would guess. I had a similar reaction because the little bit I played of Sifu was really impressive, and I would like to see more. I think in that vein, mainly because I'm not a sports person, because this looks cool, and I thought even some of the controls looked kind of neat, and it reminded me a little bit of like playing Mario Strikers when I was a kid, and that kind of made me slightly interested in a soccer game because it was like Mario and whatever. Maybe this with like really slick mechanics and you're over the shoulder third person, maybe it'd be something that I could get into a little bit, but
yeah,
probably not. And that's just personal preference. So it's more of a they're working on something that's just kind of outside my
yeah.
sphere of
It's
interest.
weird because it's like it's not gonna appeal to people who liked Sifu necessarily. Really, they might check it out, but like if this game is a 10 out of 10 for what it wants to be, it's still probably a game I'll at best I'll play for like a week
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
not think about because I'm not that multiplayer sports person anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's just I don't know, it bums me out. And the studio seems to have a desire to make a multiplayer game because the game before Sifu, um, I don't remember the name. I'm blanking on the name, but it was a hand to hand combat type game as well. But it had a lot of multiplayer elements and it didn't do
Yeah.
very well. And then they did Sifu, completely single player, blew up. I think it was Game of the Year nominated. And now they're going back to a multiplayer thing. So something about the studio really wants to make a multiplayer game. I don't know if it's just monetization or if they really have a passion for wanting to do that, but I hope we get a Sifu 2 sometime soon-ish,
Yeah.
which sounds so impossible actually at this point.
FIFU is what some people are calling this. That's the best you're
Sifu.
gonna get. FIFU.
It looks good, and
It does look.
you
It does
know,
look pretty good.
I don't know. I can't speak to it. I'm just sad. From there, we went to the main show. So that was just the pre-show. Pretty good for a pre-show. I wanted to quickly mention it kind of starts with the Muppets. I forget their names. I
Oh
feel like
yeah.
these were pretty expertly used, if not a little too on the nose, but like clearly being used as a way to like take the criticism head on and kind of take the air out of people who had these criticisms by just making fun of himself. That's kind of how it felt like to me.
Hmm.
But I thought it was pretty well done. Like him, I think one of the first jokes was uh, telling Geoff Keighley to wrap it up. And it was just like,
Yeah.
I think that needed to be done because that's all anyone's talked about for an entire year from last year is how all the winners were rushed off the stage and told to please wrap it up. So
Yeah.
there were a couple very satirical, on point jokes that I think were handled pretty well in a way that you know was kind of
Yeah.
like acknowledging them and moving forward. Maybe I don't know. What do you think of the Muppets?
I'd
It's
agree.
such a weird thing to add to the show, but it worked.
I think it worked. Big ceremonial shows like that are kind of a theater production anyway. And so I think you're kind of in a headspace where you have the Muppets being silly. It's like, it feels like you're at a show and okay, that's fun. And then, yeah, I think they were cleverly used, not just for entertainment, but to address and deflate some of the criticisms. Um,
Deflate, yeah, that's a good word.
I think pretty well. Like cutting Geoff Keighley off and saying wrap it up. Well, that was good. I think that was a funny usage of one of those. So it
Yeah,
made sense. I
and
think
it's
that was
kind of a
handled about as well as you could on
it's kind of part of a
stage.
package that we'll talk about later of Geoff doing a pretty good job of addressing a lot of the criticisms from the past years
Hmm.
with some other things coming up.
I
So
think one last thought on that. I won't go too far into it, but I think part of the reason it worked beyond it being like the Muppets and it's kind of funny is that they actually made some changes that
agreed. If they hadn't made changes, it would have been very
it would
tone deaf.
it would have felt like almost like it backfired, like
Yeah,
you're mocking people. But
mocking
this felt
people.
like it was making a joke about it to point it out
It
and
was
kind of
like, we hear you. I
at
hear
his
you.
expense, like saying we get it. And then they made some of those changes so that the event worked
That is
better.
crucial. That's a
They took
good
the
point because
feedback.
if they
Yeah.
hadn't done that, then it would have been really tone deaf and very
Right.
grating.
Which
Um,
is a good example for a lot of corporations when because I know a lot of corporations will see this and think, oh, we just need funny Muppets and to make a joke about the screw up we just did and then people will be fine. It's like, no, that's the surface level thing that's happening. The deeper
yeah,
thing is they took the feedback. So
yeah. Well made point. The first award we got was a cameo from Harrison Ford, who surprised everybody and showed up. And man, is he looking old? Is it just me,
I
or was
mean,
I like nervous the entire time he was up there, like he was gonna forget how to say words or something?
this isn't Star Wars. Where
Yeah,
am I?
he
I can
it made
never
me a
tell
little
how
sad.
lucid he
He's
is.
looking a little senile, and at the end of it all, he actually did a really good job, and he was
Yeah,
very
he did.
Harrison Ford 40.
It's
But like, there
it's
were
tough
several
because
moments where I was like, "Oh no, is he about to like completely forget where he is?"
his sense of humor is like kind of this angry, I don't want to be here, which feels a
Yeah,
little
did you see where
senile anyway.
he was like, "I'm not saying all that."
Yeah, which is
He was
very
like, "Let's
him.
get to the award." It was pretty funny. So
So it was. I think he's funny.
it
And I
was.
mean,
It's
yeah,
just hard to see him get.
he's
This was
looking.
one of the first times where I've seen him where I'm like, "Oh man, he
Dang, he's old.
actually is
I mean,
really old."
how old is he though? I'm at the
He's
point
got
where
to be almost
yeah,
80, right?
he's. I think he's into his 80s.
He's into.
He's 82. He's
He's
82.
82. Dang,
Yeah.
I thought he was late
So
70s.
no. So I mean,
That's
for his
freaking.
age, I think he's doing all
He's
right.
doing great for
It's
82.
it's just tough. It's tough seeing
I'm not
people
gonna
you
be able to get
like.
on a stage in front of thousands of people and say what I'm supposed to say at
I can't do it
82.
now. Where
Yeah.
where am I?
Where am I?
Well,
I can't do
Zach's
it on a podcast.
34,
And,
almost
yeah.
34. Yeah. So
He was there to announce best performance, which went to Senua's Saga
yeah.
2. That thing that game has a weird name. I can't ever remember all of it.
Senua
Senua's
Saga, Hellblade 2.
Hellblade 2. Okay.
The
Do you have
Helen
the other
language.
nominees there?
Yeah, the other nominees were Hannah Tell from Life is Strange Double Exposure, Brianna White, who did Aerith from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Humberly Gonzalez from Star Wars Outlaws. She played the main character in that. And then Luke Roberts, who is the voice of the protagonist in Silent Hill 2.
Oh, I don't
Um,
have any skin in the game. I was kind of hoping that Aerith would win,
that's what I
just because
wanted.
it's been such a good character, even in the first game. I've yet to play Rebirth,
She's
but I
just
know
as good, if not
she's a
better.
bigger
Yeah,
focal point in this game.
she's
And
excellent.
also,
Yeah.
whoever won it, I forget her name from
Melina
Senua's Saga.
Jurgens.
She won it the first time, Not that
Yeah.
she's not as deserving the second time, but it always feels a little like, we've already done this. We
This
know
feels
you're
tough
good.
because everything I've
But it
seen from
is,
like these, they all seemed very talented. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
whatever is probably fine. But I mainly wanted Brianna White to win just because I love Rebirth and I love Aerith's character, and I feel like she translated Aerith's character in a way that felt so true to the original, which didn't have a voice actor. So it's hard for me to not be like, she should have won. But I think all of these people, from everything I've heard, were very good. So.
yeah. I might actually get to play Rebirth here soon with an announcement coming up, but we'll get
Oh
there.
my
Um,
goodness.
our first big announcement. Jeff kicks the show off with CD Project's
CD's
Red,
Project Red.
CD's Project Red Witcher 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a surprise, and I don't think we're going to have this for years. It didn't seem
No.
like it was coming out anytime soon, but this is one
My
of those that
guess,
you love to secure for your show
totally.
to kind of start things off with a bang.
This is
Did
2020.
this
This is
surprise you? Did
2029.
this knock your socks off?
It was cool. I mean, it did what I wanted it to. I thought it was awesome. I was expecting Witcher 4. That was like one of the few big titles where I was like, I just think we got,
Just because
because
you thought it was time, or we
we've
heard
been
an
hearing,
announcement a while
yeah,
back,
well, I mean,
like a
because a couple
tweet or
of,
something.
yeah, there's been a lot of little signs. But I mean, they released the deal or the expansion to Cyberpunk 2 years ago now, or was it just a year ago? It was 2023, but it was like a year and a half ago. It's been a while, and they had said that like this was the next big thing that they were starting work on back when they were like wrapping stuff up with Cyberpunk. It's also a no brainer. Witcher 3 it's like kind of like Skyrim, where it's just sold gangbusters. Maybe not
Yeah,
quite on Skyrim's level, but it's got to be kind of close. So Witcher 4 is like, of course they're going to do that, and they're set up for it because you had Ciri in Witcher 3, who is a character.
that was the
Um,
biggest confirmation, is that Ciri will be the main protagonist,
which
not
also
Geralt. So
totally expected that because she just based on the progression of the story, and it makes a
yeah,
lot of sense.
from what I've
So
heard, it would have been a shocker if she wasn't, but it
yeah,
was still
and from
confirmation.
from the books
So
I've read too, like that's just it. That's kind of how the story goes. So for a lot of reasons, I was like, and it's also, it feels like it's time. It's been a while. And it felt like the next big thing for them to be like, here's a trailer. Like we got I think it was last year at one of the things, or maybe the year before, we got the little pendant and the logo of Witcher 4.
yeah, that's what I was
Um,
thinking of.
just the bare bones teaser.
I think that was just a tweet or something, or like a YouTube. I don't think it was even at a show, but
Maybe not. So just like, this is such a good place to like, let's get people hyped. And my guess is that we're now like 4 or 5 years out from this. Like I would guess maybe late
that's so
20,
crazy, dude.
but I mean, it's almost 2025. I would guess late 2029. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe this will be earlier. I think that's what it's going to
You'd
be.
think they'd have been in full production for. We didn't see any gameplay though, so yeah,
We
I
didn't
don't
see
have
any
much to
gameplay.
say about this. I don't have a ton of tie to the franchise. It's kind of like a Last of Us situation for me. I understand that it's really exciting for everybody. I didn't play the first games or whatever. Um, you know, for me, I'm really at a point with these things where I understand this has a place in a showcase and it brings some hype for the future, but I personally don't register things really anymore unless I'm seeing gameplay.
That's
Um,
understandable.
I just
That
kind
I
of
get.
I put it out of my brain because I'm like, why do I? This is 4 or 5 years. Who knows what could happen in that time?
Yeah.
You know. So it was exciting though. From there, Geoff Keighley was feeling himself because he went straight into Elden Ring Night Rain,
That was
which
crazy,
was
actually.
I think this might have been the shock of the show. No, I
Yeah.
guess I can't say that. There were so many
There,
things,
there
but
were a
like
few,
the thing about
but this was
Elden
a
Ring is
shock.
that we had heard recently from Miyazaki himself, I believe, that they had no plans or were not currently working on Elden Ring a sequel or more DLC. And
I guess
so, but he did
technically
not
that
say
might be true.
spin-off.
Yeah.
Like what? Come on, dude. What?
That's like when
This
he
was
said,
just so
that's what, like when he said that Erdtree would be the size of
size of
Limgrave.
Limgrave, and it's like
Like,
technically, if
yeah,
you overlay them, then
you got
maybe.
to
But
take everything he says with some grains of
I think
salt.
he must take pleasure in just
Yeah,
like in
I respect it.
half
I love
truth
it.
statements.
He's like an oracle, or like a prince of the Fae that speaks in riddles and in
Yeah,
technical truths, but tricks you with your words. I love it.
exactly.
Um,
This was shocking. I did
this was really
not. I
shocking.
mean, for us to get Elden Ring a standalone spin-off game, and it's coming out allegedly next year, 2025. I mean, if you'd have, I don't know what the betting line would have been on getting an Elden Ring game in 2025 would have been, but it would have been pretty low odds, I would think.
Yeah.
And so here we are. And the wild thing about this is it wasn't clear. Man, the whole time I was watching this trailer, I was like, what the heck is
What
this? I
is
do
this?
not
That was my
understand.
big issue
It
too.
looks like DLC to me,
Yeah.
which again, I was like, you said no DLC. Turns out I don't have the information in front of me. I'll speak from memory, and I might be wrong on a few things, but essentially, this is a multiplayer roguelike version of Elden Ring. And instead of creating an RPG character, you are going to select from, I think it was like 8 different characters
Yeah.
that are there, that are unique classes, and have, and I believe this is verbatim, they have unique ultimates.
Mm-hmm.
So think of a hero shooter, like a hero
Hero
Souls
shooter,
like.
roguelike, Souls
Like
like,
this is
Elden
just
Ring.
beyond weird, and people have been really upset vocal about this, which I think is unwarranted, because one, they haven't missed in a decade. So, I mean, give them the benefit of the doubt at this
Yeah.
point. And also the fact that this is coming out in 2025, to me, says that this is a side project. This is,
Yeah.
hey,
Same.
you know what? Let's get something out in 2025. Let's cobble together
We
some
have a lot of
pieces
these
that were left on the
assets.
cutting room floor,
Yeah.
and let's cobble them together and try something new that's kind of a low risk, low cost. Let's try
Fun
something new
little
while
thing.
while Sekiro 2 or whatever is cooking for the next couple of years. Let's get this out the door. And if that's the case, I'm completely on board, because I'm sure this will be more fun than I will expect. I'm
Yeah.
sure it will be better made than I would even think, because it's from Soft. But that is a strong asterisk for me. This needs to be a side project, because if this came at any sort of like sizable, um, time commitment that took away from these other bigger projects, then I would be
Yeah.
disappointed about it.
Same. Because this
But
isn't
yeah,
what I
you're gonna
really want from them. But if it's
yeah,
a little
it's
side surprise thing, then it's cool.
and I also want studios to be able, if they're feeling frisky, try something new. This
Yeah.
has a lot of elements that really, really turn me off when you're talking about like a hero based
Yeah.
system, when you're
Not
talking
big on
about
hero
like the
shooters.
map shrinking. I'm thinking Fortnite. When you're talking about roguelikes, there have been a few that I like, but typically if you say we're making a roguelike, you're at a disadvantage for me personally. So there's just a whole lot of terms here that I'm just like, I don't love that, but it's from Soft. And I gotta say, it sounds kind of cool to jump in, me, you, and Calvin, or whatever, the homies get together.
Yeah.
And they said that basically it'll be a day night system, and you have a map, and you start at the outer ring, and you have to kind of prioritize your time during the day to upgrade and get stronger. Because when night comes, you fight a boss, and then if you defeat the boss, the mist or the fire or whatever shrinks the map, and you start moving
Mm-hmm.
closer and closer to the center. Every night is a new boss. So
Yeah.
I do really like that concept, and being able to do that with friends. It said there will be meta progression too. If you fail your run, there will be things that you can like increase your power or make things easier on the next run. So I don't know, as I've gotten away from the shock of it, this is one, unlike Rematch, where I'm actually getting a little excited for the prospect of something kind of weird from FromSoft that you can play with friends, like actual multiplayer, not having to
Not
download a mod to play
totally.
Elden Ring
Yeah.
with people. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this? I mean, walk me through
Similar.
your progression.
I was mostly just like shocked by it. I was like, "What the heck is this?" And how do they have this coming next year? It was a pleasant surprise in the fact that it was surprising. It's in the near term, and it's from a studio that has delivered so consistently that I have pretty good confidence that it will be enjoyable to some extent. Um, but at the same time, I'm not excited on the level I would be for like their next big thing, because it's same things. I'm not huge on team shooters or Fortnite style games. I'm not huge on roguelikes. Occasionally certain games can pull me in, so I'm not against it. But um, if anyone was going to do it, that
Yeah,
probably they could do it. So that's cool. And there's something interesting, like seeing the assets from like Elden Ring and being like, what is this? And then seeing the um, Rider on the Storm Undead King, or Storm
The
King,
Nameless King.
Nameless King from Dark Souls 3, like
That
that.
is the
I think
interesting thing too, is I feel like they're
flying
just
in,
going to pull bosses from
it seems like
everywhere, which is cool.
I think they're just pulling assets from like a bunch of their stuff, and that's I would guess that's why they're able to do this so
Yeah,
quickly, which is cool. I mean, that's a good way to take a bunch of amazing stuff they have, put it in a
I
very
agree.
different and new
You
format
know what
that
it
might be
feels like?
fun.
It feels like a mod. And we've gotten to the point where
Yeah,
mods can be full games. This feels like a developer made mod where they're just like, hey, let's screw around and make something with all these pieces that we have.
yeah,
I'm all for it if that's what it is. So,
me too.
and
Say, yeah,
I like the co-op thing. I really enjoy a good co-op adventure. I think FromSoft should look at Remnant 2 really closely, because I don't think FromSoft have nailed the difficulty curve or the gameplay of bosses with multiple people or summons or whatever. It either ends up being the boss is too ludicrously insane, or it's too easy to just divert attention and wail on the boss yourself. Like,
yeah,
I don't think they've done the best job with co-op type stuff. And Remnant 2, I'm currently playing through the DLC with my brother, and it is just there has never been done better co-op boss fights. It's just honestly should be a masterclass for anyone who's looking to do that. I hope that FromSoft can pull off something a little better than how it feels to fight with like a summon in Elden Ring. So,
yep.
yes, two banger surprises. That one's out 2025. They say. We'll see. Then we got the announcement, as I was alluding to, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming to PC on January 23rd, where I will be able to play it without
Yeah.
it looking like I'm looking through Vaseline, and without having to buy a $750 PS5 Pro.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, if I'll probably replay it at some point, and I think when I do, I'll do it on PC.
I mean, if they have ultra wide support, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on my ultra wide,
I'm excited for
we'll
you
see.
to.
We'll
I'm
see.
excited for you to play it in general, and I think with getting good graphics and performance on PC and stuff like I'm envious. I wish I could be playing that.
I'm excited too. We're also at the point now where I know this isn't a Sony made game, but there's a couple other PC. I think Last of Us 2 was announced for PC at the show.
Mm-hmm.
We're officially out of PC releases for Sony other than Bloodborne, and I just don't understand what we're doing over at Sony
I don't know
headquarters. Like, I don't know if
why.
there's legal issues that
There
everyone's
must.
unaware of. I feel like if there were, we'd all be aware of them because people are digging, people care. I don't I don't know what it feels like, a personal vendetta, honestly, at this point of Sony against its consumers, to be
It kind of does.
like
Yeah,
stubborn, like they want it, but we're not budging, or I don't know. It's very weird.
I know.
There's a side rant. Yeah, PC. Do you feel like you'd replay it on PC or not?
Yeah, I
It's
think
a big
so.
game.
I think if I did it, well, with the caveat that I have to fix my PC still. But if let's in a world where my
Will
PC
Zach
is
have a
working,
PC in
in a world
2025?
where my PC is working, yeah, I would do that because, um, as much as I loved playing it, like I played it on, um, resolution mode, when I played it
Oh,
because
you took the 30 FPS hit.
I took the 30 FPS hit because it looked really bad in the
It's
performance
the
mode.
only game that made that even a discussion,
Yeah,
because
I usually will
when
take
you
performance.
go to performance mode, it is like, what the heck happened here?
It's
I
like,
Don't get me
yeah,
started. It feels like a conspiracy, honestly. Like, I don't
it feels
understand
like
how it can look that much worse than Final Fantasy VII remake. Like,
we've joked that it
how?
was a ploy to sell PS5 Pros. Like, hey, you can this can actually look good if you.
Like, they
Um,
actively put a filter over it,
it
and then
looks
like
like
when the PS5 Pro came out, they removed the filter. Like,
that's
that's
it.
what it looks
It
like.
does look kind of like that. So if I were to replay it, rather than buying a PS5 Pro, which I decided I probably am not going to do, I think I would just play it on PC in a world where my
$70
PC
a lot
works,
cheaper than 750.
assuming
So
my PC is free to
yeah,
fix.
we got to get your PC running. Best action game was the next. I'm really close to my mic. Sorry if that blew everyone's earphones out. Um, Best action game was the next announcement. If you have the nominees, the winner was Black Myth Wukong.
Yep. And the nominees were Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2.
So I felt like this was a two-horse race between Black Myth Wukong and Stellar Blade, and I kind of wish that Stellar Blade had taken this one, because I think Black Myth Wukong won a few other ones, and I don't think Stellar Blade won anything. And I
I don't
think
think it
I
did.
think Stellar. I think as far as the action, if we're going to be true to these awards and the action part, I think Stellar Blade is a better action game than Black Myth Wukong. So
I haven't played Wukong yet, but still, I really like Stellar Blade. I feel like it got a lot of good um, reviews, but I also feel like it's a little underappreciated at large. Like I feel like it's a little bit better than the recognition it gets.
yeah, I would have liked if
So
that had taken it, but
that would have been my personal pick. But I mean, from everything I've heard about Black Myth Wukong, that's a pretty cool action game. So I'm not
yeah,
surprised. A lot of people love that. Was a very popular game, so I'm not surprised it won.
yeah. The only reason I say that is the combat in that game, though kind of fun, was a little one note and arcade like. I felt the combat in Stellar Blade was a lot better and more engaging. Um, but Black Myth Wukong was, like I said, I think it was between those two games, and so it's not egregious that it won at all by any means. The next announcement was a pretty big one. We got I don't know the studio if you have it, but Project Robot from the developers of Ico, The Last Guardian, and Shadow of the Colossus,
Yeah,
who only seem to pop up every 8 to 10 years, create a artistic masterpiece, and then disappear. And so here we got their announcement for their next thing, which very much feels Shadow of the Colossus inspired. You're on this. What a cool, like, as far as cinematic, I don't know if this was in engine or whatever, but as far as like not really showing gameplay necessarily, um, as far as that goes, this was probably one of the coolest trailers I've seen in a long time. Just very artistically well done, gets you
yeah,
hyped, gives you kind of a sense of the vibe the game is going for without really telling you anything at all.
yeah.
Um,
This was the most
Very
exciting
cool.
teaser. I think I was more excited by this than Witcher 4 personally. Like you said, the teaser does a great job of helping you understand the vibe of the game. I think. Plus, it's a known studio. I think it's Team
Yeah.
Ico. Like they
Oh,
are.
is that their name? Team
I think
Ico?
so. The
Oh, interesting.
Fumito Ueda is the guy like who's kind of behind it. Um,
So which
but
came first, their team name or their game?
yeah, that is a good question that I don't know the answer
The
to.
chicken or the egg?
Um, but no, like I haven't really played most of their stuff, but they're
That was going to
so
be my question.
in the
Are there any
culture.
of their three games that you have played and loved? But no, huh?
I just haven't. I missed Shadow of the. I mean, Ico was like I was a kid and I didn't even know about it. Shadow of the Colossus. I've heard so many amazing things about, and I meant to play they did a remake or
The
remaster at some point.
remaster or whatever. Yeah.
But I just have never gotten around to doing it. The concept is totally the type of thing I'd love. The lore around it's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I believe everybody. Like I am very confident that I would have loved that game then, and even if I replayed like the remaster now, I think I would really enjoy it. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm fascinated by the stuff they do. So very excited about this, and I will play it.
It is
Um,
fascinating. I will say their studio very much feels like an artsy studio.
yeah,
Their games that have been iconic feel very artsy, where all games are art, but like theirs specifically feel very artsy. And I have played I played the first hour or two of the remake of Shadow of the Colossus, and I played the first couple hours of The Last Guardian, and neither of them grabbed me, and I haven't finished either of them. So I don't know if this studio just doesn't make games that work for me.
hmm
Um, but I'm ready to be heard again, I guess, or bored again, I guess. I don't know, because this trailer looked really cool, and I'm excited for.
yeah.
It reminded me what's the movie where the giant mechs are fighting
Pacific
Godzilla.
Rim.
It had that kind of like vibe, but also very post-apocalyptic,
Yeah,
like
post-apocalyptic
worn down.
and like on an alien planet maybe or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
and
cool.
also like the approaching like storm of energy or whatever kind of felt like Stormlight a little bit to me. So it's like a
There's a lot of cool
desolation or
stuff.
a high storm coming. It looked really cool. It was the right
Watch it be like a deck building game, or like
a
you know how
roguelike.
you get those trailers where you're like, this looks so
This looks
sick, and then
so
it's
cool.
like a mobile looking game.
It's a roguelike deck building Fortnite team shooter.
It's
Hero
they're
shooter.
pairing
Yeah.
with Balatro. It's actually just more Balatro.
Yeah, and you have to Balatro harder to stop the end of the world. No, I'm very
Yeah.
excited about this. Definitely be keeping an eye on that.
Yeah. From there, we got our not announcement, but like further. I think this might have been our first like gameplay trailer of Outer Worlds 2, and
Mm-hmm.
This is another one where I played maybe like 5 to 10 hours of Outer Worlds 1 and just fell off of it. It didn't hook me.
I had the same experience. I liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that
Some of
said,
this
I watched this trailer and I'm like,
looks
this looks
great.
sick. I'm ready to jump back in and probably play another 5 hours and fall off, but it looked really cool.
I almost would have gone back to Outer Worlds, sorry, a couple of times because I really liked the 5 to 10 hours I played. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if just life was in a place where I got distracted and whatever, or if it was just it didn't grab me. I don't really know,
Yeah.
but I liked it. I have good memories of it. And Outer Worlds 2 looks pretty cool.
It
So
looks like they're doing stuff a little better. They made the
mhm,
tongue in cheek joke of, we included everything that should have been in the first game. And
yep,
I thought the energy and the way the trailer was put together was pretty good, pretty entertaining.
yeah,
I liked a lot of these set pieces look
hmm,
just awesome,
yeah.
really
It
cool
looks really
retro
cool.
sci-fi looking stuff. So um, I'm definitely wanting to check this out. It's one of those games that I'm like more excited for it than I should be because odds are I probably won't play it to the end. But maybe, just maybe,
Maybe.
it could hook me. It's
I
looking
mean,
kind of
if
cool.
they've improved on their formula and it's just a better version,
Yeah,
it might be everything that's needed because a lot of people that played this loved it. So I think,
it kind of feels like Obsidian, which is no surprise, New Vegas and all that. But like it feels like Obsidian kind of are the legacy, carrying on the legacy of um oh my goodness, who did Mass Effect?
BioWare.
BioWare. Yeah.
Yeah,
It feels like they are carrying on the legacy of
it does.
BioWare, where
It
BioWare
absolutely
kind of
feels like that.
is no longer BioWare esque. So
It does absolutely feel like that. Yeah.
yeah. Um what do we get? Oh, okay, here we go. From there we got our beloved friend Joseph Ferris, who got to come on stage and is always a firecracker. You never know he says the darndest things. But he came out to
Oh
announce
yeah,
he's
this is
so fun. He came out to announce their next game and he was just like, he's like, I'm sorry if I sound cocky, but it's hard not to sound cocky when you have a game like this. Like he's just crazy.
he said that,
And
and I forgot who he was at first, and I wasn't
oh
I didn't
really?
remember what team he was part of until they started showing the game, and I was like, oh, who's this jerk? I was like, I probably am gonna hate it, and
What
then
a
he showed it. I'm
dude.
like, oh my god,
Yeah, no, I
I'm
love
so
him, man. He's one
excited.
of the few like personas in the
I
industry where
like
I'm
it.
just
No, I
like,
like him too. Well, and it's like he has proof to back it up.
no joke. Well, he came out and we found out the sequel to It Takes Two, Game of the Year winner for
Not direct sequel. It's
2021.
more of a
No, I know,
spiritual.
as
Yeah.
being
Okay.
slightly, yeah, the sequel is
Oh
not
yeah,
a
I know. I
sequel.
got that.
It's
I got
Split
your joke.
Fiction. Did you
Split.
get my joke? Were you
I
smart
did.
enough to get my joke,
It did
Zach?
not go over my head. I thought it was. Uh,
Oh, I'm surrounded by idiots. Oh, goodness. No, just kidding. Um, this was my game of the show. On like not
yeah,
no
I think
joke.
so. I
This
think
was
this
my
is.
highlight of the show, and it shocked me because I loved It Takes Two, and it won Game of the Year. But a lot of people are like, "Ah, that was a down year for games," and it kind of was. It's kind of viewed as a lesser Game of the Year winner. But seeing this reveal, I was like, dang, I really loved It Takes Two, and this looks more my style,
Same.
more of what I love, less kind of maybe obnoxious characters. If there was one complaint I had about It Takes Two, it was that the British couple were kind of annoying, and there were some weird characters in there that were a little grating at times.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Whereas
this
this
has
one,
better characters, like
it seemed like it
the
to me.
Book
All
of
of their
Love.
interactions, yeah, I mean, he was
He was kind
grating
of
and
fun.
funny at the same time, and but the sisters in this one are not sisters. They're just two people that
Now,
don't know each other.
yeah,
Their dialogue that we got to see seemed very well voice acted and written, and a lot less maybe tacky or whatever. I don't know. It just felt like they've taken everything from It Takes Two and one upped it a little bit, and we'll see if they can do that. But even if it's just as good as It Takes Two, this looks so good, and I'm so happy that there is a studio out there, that Joseph Ferris and his studio have like zeroed in on this type of game
yeah,
and created the blueprint for how to make a split screen co-op game in
hmm
the modern day. And they have just like, they crushed it with It Takes Two, and I feel like they're going to crush it with this, and it's coming out in like 2 months. That
I
was the
know.
other thing where I was just like, dude, it's like my most anticipated game of 2025 at this point. I was beyond hyped for this. I was getting goosebumps, and I just didn't expect that from the next game after It Takes Two. They even went
Yeah,
on to show like different levels, and I just love how they do different mechanics for every level and really explore with just random gameplay that's always so fleshed out and polished, and then instantly they move on to something else. It's just I'm so glad the studio is doing what they're doing.
me too. And they're so good at it. Seeing the next game from the people who made It Takes Two is it's something I was excited about no matter what. As soon as I realized the team he was on, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. It Takes Two is an incredible game. But like you said, I think the style and presentation of this game looks more my speed. It's a mixture of sci-fi and fantasy, which is kind of the whole premise. It's like one
Yeah, we kind of
is
buried the lead there, but
a
yeah,
sci-fi writer and one is a fantasy writer, and they're brought together and they have to like work together to explore the worlds they
escape their
create
own books
or escape their
basically.
own stories or something.
Yeah,
Which is a cool premise in general, but also is like such a good way to set up the mechanics of what they're doing. Is like you're going to have
hmm,
crazy fantasy and sci-fi hijinks, and it kind of leaves it open to be like, no matter what ridiculous thing we put in there, it fits like the narrative construct, which is I
yeah, you
think
can do whatever
clever.
you want almost.
Um, and then
And
just
also
some of the
just the bouncing back and forth is going to keep things super
yeah, because I
fresh
love
too. Like,
both, but it's like
yeah,
getting to do both is like it's going to be so fun. And then the set pieces, like the giant swinging his axe and you're like running to climb on it or something. I forget exactly what it was. It all looked so good. Like they have such creativity with the stuff they do that I just can't wait to see what they've envisioned. I feel like the graphics look better than
yeah.
ever. Um, and I'm very excited. This is probably what I'm most excited about from the showcase. There's one other announcement that had me really excited for the future, but I think this is tangibly what was the
Which is
best thing.
crazy. Like I would never have guessed that this would be my most excited game, but like I don't know, they've just found their groove. I think they've
And
been
this looks like
building to it
yeah, they found their
throughout the
groove and
years.
this is like such a pinnacle of what they do. Like I'm like, "Oh my
And
gosh."
yeah, I'm so glad that they have found this niche of game. I hope it inspires other studios to make games like this. I think it kind of is actually based on something we'll talk about later in the show. But I just hope they continue doing this because they are the only ones making this game and they are making it 10 out of 10. Like, um, yeah, super psyched. And I can't believe we get this. I love when games do this too, when they get you so excited for this new game. And they're like, it's coming out in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Like,
I
that's
know.
so much better. I just hate when it's like, you get excited and you're like, all right, who knows
Yeah,
how old I'll be when this game comes out, you know?
totally. Yeah, there are some of these announcements where I'm like, "Am I going to be 40 when this comes
Am
out?"
I going to be a grandparent?
Like but yeah, anything that's a year or less is like always really exciting. And yeah, a couple months, like
Yeah.
I can't believe that we're gonna have this game in like 2 months.
Yeah. Which I thought was pretty well done about the showcase. A lot of the announcements were 2025,
Yeah,
more than I would have expected.
yeah, agreed.
So 2025 looking pretty good already. From there, we got what was actually, I think, one of the coolest parts of the entire showcase, and it had nothing to do with an announcement. It was the new award that has been created called the Game Changer Award. And this was given to Amir Satvat, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And this was directly addressing a lot of the criticisms people have had about the Game Awards kind of superficially or just glossing over all of the layoffs, the toxicity, the turmoil within the industry on a more human level,
Mm-hmm.
and just addressing that head on. And I thought it was masterfully done. This is a great award, a great addition to the Game Awards. And also, I don't know if they could have found a more wholesome person to give it to year one than this Amir.
Yeah.
His speech was like so heartfelt and like actually moving,
Mm-hmm.
just about being a good person and helping people and how you need great people to make great games. And I just don't know if they could have picked a better
I know.
face
And then
to.
passing, like he's getting the award for being a good guy, and he's just passing on the credit to his parents. Like, just seems like a good
Yeah,
dude who you can just tell. Like, yeah, he seems like a great guy to have in the industry, and is clearly helping people. And it's a good reminder for everyone. Like, I think even though a lot of people I think agree with those sentiments, it's nice to have someone stand up and say those things and be living them. And it's nice to have the venue or the event, the platform, like choosing to dedicate time to
Yeah.
like make that a priority. So that was nice to see.
And the emotional impact for him too. Like he's been, I just felt this connection to him because he's cared about video games all these years, but never been anywhere in a position where he could be in the games industry. And now I don't know how old he is. He's probably early 40s or whatever. To make an impact like this and get recognized at the Game Awards on stage. It
Pretty
was just a
crazy.
really
Yeah,
cool moment. And addressed a lot of those criticisms. And I'm glad that I just thought this was one of the cooler moments of the whole showcase, honestly.
totally. Yep. It added a sincerity and a realness to it, like a genuineness that I think a lot of these can sometimes feel just a little bit cynical or corporate.
Yeah, I mean,
And
if as
this,
Geoff Keighley or whoever doing these awards, you could have thought, okay, we need to address this in a way that will calm the masses, and it can feel disingenuous or whatever. And I just feel like they did it perfectly. It actually felt genuine. It brought a very genuine human
yeah.
element to addressing those criticisms. So,
Yep.
let's see. From there, we got to look at Black Frost: The Long Dark 2. This one was a mixed bag for me. It had a really, really cool art style. It had this very stylized clay looking art style that I love. It's one of my favorite art styles. But to find out it was The Long Dark, I was a little bummed because I checked out The Long Dark, which is like a survival sim, I guess. I don't really know how to best describe it. I didn't really jive with it. So to find out, I was getting kind of excited for this game, and then to find out it was a sequel to that kind of left me not sure how I feel about this. But maybe it can be more my style in the sequel. I love the art style.
I do.
So,
The art style looks great.
yeah. From there, we got our announcement. We got Randy Pitchford. Is that his name? I always mess up his last
That
name.
name sounds right, but
Sounds right to me. He was kind of as annoying as usual, but he came on stage to introduce Borderlands 4, or not introduce. We had seen like a brief like snippet teaser, but this was the full on trailer. I've seen a lot of people bagging on this trailer or Borderlands 4 in general, just saying they're tired of the formula, they're tired of the art style. I will say for me, I'm not a big Borderlands person. Like I've dabbled in all of the games. I think I beat the pre-sequel, maybe beat Borderlands 2, never played Borderlands 1, and played most of Borderlands 3, but not like beyond. I'm not the person grinding after the game is over or whatever.
right.
I actually thought this trailer was really dope. I don't know if it's just me or I'm not sick of Borderlands because I haven't played too much of it, but like I thought whoever put this trailer together with the music and everything, I thought it was really well done and kind of got me excited for some more Borderlands. I seem to be in the minority on that, but
I'm actually with you because I remember my first thought was, oh, this looks kind of cool. I'm actually feeling a little excited for Borderlands again. And then I was watching, like, I think it was Kind of Funny, and they were all like, yeah, this looks dumb, or I'm not interested. And I was like, oh, I guess it's just me.
yeah, I guess everyone's sick of Borderlands. I will say in the
Which,
beginning of the trailer, it did feel like the art style was a little bit different or cleaner.
yeah,
And
it
then all of a
felt like
sudden it started
it
showing
switched
classic
back.
Borderlands art style. And I was
Yeah,
like, is that because one was a cinematic and one was in
that's my
engine? Like, I don't
assumption.
understand what happened here.
My assumption is it was a cinematic versus the game, which is kind of a weird choice.
Yeah, why
Um,
would you do that? I don't know.
so I guess we'll see. Yeah, I'm with you. I beat Borderlands 2 back in the day and enjoyed it a lot. And then I played some of Borderlands 3 and kind of got a little tired of it and burnt out. And that's kind of where I'm at. I like Borderlands well enough, and so if
Yeah.
this one reviews well, or is on sale or something, like I'll probably play some of it at some point. And depending on how good it is, who knows if I'll finish it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was excited.
As a casual enjoyer of Borderlands, I'm
Yeah,
not sick of it to the point where I'm not excited for a new Borderlands to come out and
no, I
play
think it's
for
cool. We're
a
getting
dozen
another one.
hours or whatever. So,
Yeah, I'm glad we're getting another one.
we got the award for most anticipated game, which unsurprisingly, like if there was one you could put money down on, it was going to be Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah, there's no way
I
that's
was
gonna
kind of
win.
hoping that Ghost of Yote would take it,
There's no way.
but
Too
there's
many
just no way.
people. Grand Theft Auto's like
So
crazy. That Grand Theft Auto is one of those things where you're like,
there's no way Grand Theft Auto 6 can live up to the
no, there's no
expectations.
way.
There's
So
zero
many
way.
and so many people play those games. It's like, I don't have a good analogy. It's like when you think New York City's big and
It's
you go
like
to
something where a
Mexico
lot of
City.
people play it.
Yeah, it's like you don't realize how much bigger the scope is for a game like that, and you think, oh, obviously
Like
everyone's
Call of
excited
Duty.
for Ghost of Yote or something, but no, Grand Theft Auto, man. Even people who don't play games, like anybody within plus or minus 10 years of our age group who doesn't play any video games probably plays Grand Theft Auto. So
If
um,
GT6 sticks the landing at launch, I will be beyond shocked. I will
same.
be shocked if it comes out and meets expectations.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. It's like if they can meet expectations, they will have made a perfect game. I think.
Yeah,
I
it'll
don't know
be a
how,
Tears of the Kingdom situation.
and I'm not saying I
I
don't
just
think
don't
it.
see it.
I'm sure it'll. It's yeah. I'm sure it'll be good. These were never my type of game, but if it's that good, like I'll probably want to try it because I've never been a Grand Theft Auto person, but
Yeah, I've never not since I secretly played some Vice City back in the day over at my cousin's.
I
That was
secretly
my
played
last
some of Grand Theft Auto 3 back in the
three.
day at a
There you
friend's
go.
house in middle school, and I was like, went home pretty
We'll never
sure that
speak of this.
yeah, I was going to be in so much trouble when someone figured out that I had played Grand Theft Auto 3.
Oh my gosh.
I just remember he was showing me the game and I was like, what is this game? He's like, okay, so he's like, just go get that car. I'm like, oh, there's someone in it. He's like, yeah,
Steal
just,
this car,
he's like, well,
kill
just
this
pull,
hooker.
he's like, pull the person out of the car and take it. And I remember being like, that seems mean. And he's like, here, let me do it for you. And he takes the controller and it's an old grandma he pulls out of the car and he takes out a baseball bat and starts beating this
Oh my
grandma.
gosh.
And I'm just looking at him like,
I
I'm
know.
sure.
I don't know who you are.
Yeah. I'm like, are you well adjusted? Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure a lot of people love this
Anyway,
game.
super ready for GT6. Ready to beat some
I'm
grandmas
just
with a baseball bat.
yeah, it's about time. I'm excited to see if this can get anywhere near its expectations. And that's not that to say I don't think it'll be good. It's just how do you meet it?
Do you think it comes out in 2025? Do you think it actually does?
Oh man, it
It gets
feels
pushed to
like
2026.
it feels like it has to in some ways,
You
but
think?
also I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it was pushed.
Does it
It's
have? We haven't gotten a date, right?
I don't think we've
I don't
gotten a
know. I
date.
guess I have no idea.
So anyway, that's not surprising. My most anticipated is probably Ghost of Yotei. Although
Death Stranding 2 is close for me. I will be really excited for
Death
that.
Stranding 2, I mean, Metroid Prime 4 is pretty interesting to me too. So I don't know.
That one I'm medium excited for. I mean, I don't
See, I grew up playing those, so I'm a little more excited for that, I think. But
okay, from there we got multiplayer best multiplayer game, which went to Helldivers 2, and very deservedly. So
absolutely,
there is no
deserves
other
that.
game on here. Warhammer 40K had its moment, but like
It was a
just
close tie between Helldivers and Super Mario Party Jamboree. But
yeah, definitely. No, this
no,
was
yeah, I
Helldivers
think
2 all along. So
yeah, Helldivers was like a revolution. Like
there's no game that I've experienced the amount of fun chaos in multiplayer
yeah,
like Helldivers 2 earlier this year. So
yep.
let's see, where did we go from there? We got the award for community support, which went to Baldur's Gate 3. That was a little bit surprising to me, but I also heard recently that they added mod support on console, which is unheard of and is really cool. And so for that reason, I'm kind of glad to see them win it. I wish more people would.
They continue to just be so pro player,
Yeah, 100%. Best art direction went to Metaphor ReFantasio, which actually ended up winning quite a few that I felt like maybe should have gone to other games, but I haven't played Metaphor. I've also heard that Metaphor ReFantasio kind of looks kind of dated in a lot of ways and doesn't look that great.
As someone who's put in, I don't know, 10 to 15 hours of Metaphor now, it's weird because like half of me agrees with the art direction and the other half of me vehemently disagrees. Because what it is I think the art direction itself is very good. The stylized UI and you remember the style with which Persona 5 portrays things. Like Metaphor has that kind of swagger. The animated parts where you're like watching an anime is all really great. But the actual gameplay itself, like the assets and the visuals, feels very dated. And so it's this weird contrast of like really great art direction and a cool story and some very unique ideas and mechanics mixed in with some really clunky dated interfaces and stuff. So I think
this should have gone to Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree. And I feel like, I guess we can discuss this a little bit, but I feel like Erd Tree was almost avoided like the Black Plague.
It does
because of all of the drama surrounding it being a DLC and it shouldn't be nominated for stuff. I don't think Erd Tree won a single thing.
I don't think it won anything.
And if it was going to win one, I think it should have won art direction because the art direction in that DLC is just FromSoft always kill it. And this was like the pinnacle of even that, I think. So
yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
I feel like it's crazy that Elden Ring didn't win anything. I can see the argument for Metaphor. I haven't finished Metaphor, so it's a little hard to compare, but Yeah.
From there, we got the performances, a bunch of arcane performances, which were actually really good,
They were actually really good.
really
Yeah.
cool. Tyler Joseph killed it as the finale to that 21 Pilots. It was just it really, like we mentioned at the outset, it made this a well-rounded showcase, and
Hmm.
the orchestral performances as well as these performances were just really good.
Yeah.
Made it an event you kind of were watching, being like, man, I kind of wish I was there.
I
Actually,
know. It would have been really cool to be there.
From there, we got some announcements that mean absolutely nothing to me, and I think probably you, but meant something to some people. Virtua Fighter is coming back, as well as a new thing called Project Century, which I think these
Yeah.
are kind of reinvigorated franchises of the
Yeah.
past that mean something to people that I have zero connection to. So, um,
Yep.
yeah,
I got nothing on him. So
I
I'm
got
glad for
nothing.
people. Glad for people that are excited. I don't really know anything about
Happy
him.
for people who are happy.
Yep.
Best game direction went to Astrobot, which, I mean, sure. I don't
Yeah.
know
Why not?
who else was nominated for that.
I think we also had Balatro, Black Myth Wukong,
For game
Erd.
direction? How is Balatro? What does that mean? What does game
You know,
direction mean?
I mean, I think game
That doesn't
direction.
make any sense to me.
Game direction makes more sense in the context of a team. I think because you think directing a team, directing a film.
Yeah,
What Balatro? It's this weird thing where it's like it's one guy who made it, which is like incredibly impressive. But it's also like
he
game
really
direction
stayed
feels
on
like a
top of his
weird.
own vision.
He really kept himself on task, and I think that's probably true.
Uh,
So yeah, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor Refantasio.
I would have liked to. I would have liked for this to have gone to Final Fantasy VII or
That's
Erdtree.
that's what I'm thinking. I probably would go Rebirth because I think game direction. I think the orchestra of like bringing together a lot of complex pieces and cast members and
And
performances.
accomplishing a unified vision.
Yeah, and I feel like
That's what I feel from that.
Rebirth
Yeah.
is taking an old thing and remaking it mostly very successfully. It has all these crazy performances. It has these cinematics that are you're watching a film sort of
Yeah.
like intermittently throughout this game. Um,
And it's also
a lot
going
of
off the beaten path. It needs direction because it's not just redoing what was done before. Yeah,
yeah. So
that's fine.
I would have picked Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Balatro on this list is
Did
just.
Final Fantasy
I
VII
think
Rebirth not? Oh, they won.
I
No,
don't
they won one that we're
They
coming up
won
on.
one thing, yeah.
One thing.
So
But
we'll
still,
probably
like,
get into it, but Balatro was in a lot of award areas that I feel like, or won some awards that I feel like maybe
yeah,
we got a little too hot and heavy for Balatro this year. But
yeah. And I love Astrobot, and I could see game direction for Astrobot to an extent, but I kind of wish, especially knowing Astrobot won some other awards.
Astrobot cleaned house this year, man.
It really did. I wish Rebirth had won this one personally.
Rebirth should have won another
But
award or two, I think.
it should have. But
I
yeah,
say, as someone who hasn't played it and is
for game
annoyed at their
direction,
performance.
I think Rebirth, Erd Tree, and Astrobot are all good contenders. Maybe Refantasio, but I haven't played enough of that to decide. So
Okay, from there we got the announcement of Turok Origins returning, which I have no
yeah,
connection to, but I am excited about this one because I've always wanted one of these dinosaur games to hit, and they never
same.
have for me. And this one, I believe, I may be incorrect, but I believe it's being made by the studio who just put out Space Marines 2, which was a very, very well received multiplayer third person action shooter game. And if you want to take that formula and put out a dinosaur game where I can team up with some homies and shoot at Triceratop bosses,
Yes.
Velociraptors, like, please make that a game that's good, because how do we not have a good like shooter dinosaur game? That is
Yep.
literally what video games are made for. Horizon kind of did its own thing, but I want a multiplayer
I want
shooter
legit
dinosaur
dinosaurs. Yeah,
Yeah.
let me kill some T-Rexes. Let me kill some
With a machine gun.
Allosauruses. Let me kill some Pachycephalosaurus.
Pachycephalosaurus.
Let me kill some Parasaurolophuses. Let me kill a little horde of Compsognathuses.
Wow.
Let me kill a
I'm impressed.
Gigantosaurus.
Okay, that was less impressive.
Let me
I was impressed by a few of
kill
those, though.
a Mosasaurus.
When I'm
Let
trying
me-
to impress,
let me
I'll throw out
kill-
Pachycephalosaurus, but that's it. That's all I got. You went like 2 or 3 more deeper than that.
Let me
so
kill a
good on you.
Therizanosaurus.
Now you're just making up words.
No, I'm not. Those are all dinosaurs.
Let me kill a Game Awardsaurus.
Let me kill. Anyway, I'm super excited. I love dinosaurs, so I'm excited for that alone.
I hope it's
But
good. I don't know
I
if
hope it's
there's a
good
date
too.
on this. I didn't write it
I don't think there's a date on this one. I played the original Turok
Did you
games like
really?
on N64 because
Man,
my
you're
dad
old.
loves dinosaurs, and my dad is the one who initially got our game consoles. So he bought Turok back in the day, and I remember it had blood, but there was a setting where you could turn the blood to light or off, and he was like, "You can play this, but you got to turn the blood setting to light or off." For some reason, he gave me that option.
He's
But
like, it can be light.
it can be like, I think he said that. Maybe
You
I'm
need
misremembering,
blood.
but I remember I would sometimes toggle it to light just to like be dangerous, and then I would get
Mm.
feel kind of guilty and toggle it
This
back
was
to
after
off.
you played Grand Theft Auto
This
3
was
at your
long
friend's, huh?
before.
You
Yeah,
were
this
getting
was long. This was way before Grand Theft
a
Auto
little
3.
promiscuous with your video games.
This was before my maladjusted
Oh, that's true. This would
friend
be way
down the
older.
street. Yeah. Um,
So you were
so
predisposed. You had already been um,
I was secretly
predispositioned toward, yeah.
predisposed to violence from Turok. So anyway, I remember I had a lot of good memories with Turok. I don't necessarily think that game would hold up now, but I would love to see a reimagining of something like that is good.
Yeah. From there, we got a Helldivers 2 like surprise drop announcement, which actually I've been kind of waiting for all year, and this was
Yeah,
kind of exciting for me
it
because
looked
we've
cool.
heard a lot about the Illuminate or Illuminati. I don't know how they're called, what they're called.
Definitely
Um,
Illuminati.
I like Illuminati, but the alien race is the third race being added to the game now, finally. And so that was kind of a cool, like, it's here, it's playable now. I thought that was a low key, a
It's pretty
pretty
neat.
hype announcement, actually.
Yeah, it all looked really cool.
I want to jump back in and check it out a little
I
bit.
know. I kind of want to play some more Helldivers
Along
now.
the same vein, we got an update announcement for Pal World. Their new
Yeah,
expansion or update or whatever is called Faybreak. Wasn't really clear on what it's adding, but
sounds like a bigger
regardless,
island.
yeah, they're adding a new island. I do know
Six
that, and they've been
times
adding new
bigger than their
creatures.
yeah. So apparently it's just a lot
Six
more
times
new
bigger.
much. Yeah, that's what they said. It's 6 times bigger than the current island, and presumably
There's like
they're adding.
multiple islands right now, though. That makes no sense. 6 times bigger
Or
than their
I think it
recent
means
island.
it just says 6 times bigger than Sakurajima, which I would guess is like the
A recent
collected.
island.
I would guess
Oh,
it's like the existing space,
it
but
can't be
maybe not.
6 times bigger than the existing space. How would you put that out in a? That's a sequel. How would that be
I
an
don't know.
update?
I'm not sure
Anyways,
what they meant. They said it would be 6 times bigger, but I don't know what they mean by that. So it'll be bigger.
34 times the detail. Todd Howard comes out and
Yeah, six
um,
times bigger in terms of
yeah.
blades of grass.
This update in general didn't really do anything for me because I obviously don't know what it is. But I will say I am penciling in and ready to lose another month or two of my life to Pal World once I feel a sufficient amount of things have been done and we reach kind of that
That's kind of how I
1.0.
feel. Yeah,
I'm gonna dive back in and we're gonna
I know.
create bases all over the place and catch them all.
I
So
would like to play some more, but I was kind of waiting for like that
yeah,
threshold to be
Pal
reached
World took over our lives for like a
for
month
a
at the
minute.
beginning of this
Yeah,
year,
that's
and
true. It was
and the
good
only
times.
reason I really fell off is because there was a lot of jank with the bases and the pals
Mhm.
not functioning correctly when you leave the base and just weird stuff
Stuff like
happening.
that.
So
Yeah, I'd be excited to return if they get a lot of that ironed out and
yeah.
there's more stuff, more creatures.
All right, then we got the Balatro Awards. Debut indie went to Balatro, as well as were these back to back? I can't. My paper's all. Hold on. No, they weren't. But we can talk about them both at the same time. Debut indie and independent game went to Balatro, which we've talked about off air. What is the point of these two if you can be nominated for both? Like,
Yeah, it kind of
you
feels
should
like
be
this is a
eligible for debut indie, or if you're not, if it's a second or third game from you, then you can be eligible for indie. There's enough indie games that we don't need to
yeah.
put Balatro and everything into both of them. So, um, I was bummed to not see Animal Well take anything.
That's how I
I've
felt.
heard some really good things about UFO 50. I know it probably is not a game award winner type of game.
No,
Um,
that one looked intriguing to me though. I remember us
yeah,
talking
that one
about
looks
that in
really
an
cool.
episode and being like, that looks kind of dope. But
So
um,
everyone was
yeah,
really horny for Balatro this year, man.
so
They won everything.
I've
So
played some Balatro now, and I like it. I think it's really good. I do think it deserves some recognition, but I feel like I don't feel like it deserves it this much recognition at the expense of some of the other games that also deserve it. And I
yeah,
think Animal Well in particular was like such a good that game has stuck with me. Like Animal Well was like mildly life changing to me.
it's really
Um,
good.
it's really good, and I feel like I would have liked to have seen Animal Well get one of those, and maybe Balatro get the other
It's
or
a numbers
something.
game,
Like
though. I think just
it is a numbers game.
everybody played
A
Balatro
lot of
and
people
got
played it.
addicted to it for a
That's what it
minute,
is.
and it's just how it works. So,
Yeah, and it,
um,
kudos to Balatro. It is good. I'm still enjoying it, and I plan to play more of it. But
yeah,
Animal Well was such a like masterpiece. And I'm not saying Balatro isn't. I'm not the right type of person to comment as much on Balatro either. But I feel like
they're
Animal
just
Well is
so
just
different.
they're
One
so
one feels
different.
more like art than the other, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I don't know.
But it
But the
does to
point
me.
being, it's great when one. It's great when if you made a game. It's great when you win all the awards. But as an
Totally.
observer, it's nice when you can share the pie a little bit and like
Yeah.
Animal Well gets some, Balatro gets some. So it's kind of a bummer when Balatro takes everything
Right.
home and you're like,
No
wow,
hate
and I
to the
feel like
Balatro
nothing
guy,
else,
but
and we also you've talked about Nine Souls. A lot of
yeah,
people love Nine Souls and it's not even on this list.
that's something I wanted to
So
say is I'm in the middle of Nine Souls now. I'm probably closing in on like 40, maybe 50%. Um, Nine Souls is fantastic. It is a 9.5 out of 10 probably for me. It's really,
yeah,
really good. And it's crazy to me, not necessarily that it didn't win, but that it's not even
not
represented
even
on this list.
nominated. Yeah.
The fact that the Plucky Squire, which was like had a lot of issues, I haven't played it, but
Yeah.
from what you've said, it's like the fact that the Plucky Squire is on here and not Nine Souls is
Yeah.
insane.
It does
Now,
make me want to look into our nomination process and like, how does this
right.
work? Because,
Well, it's like I don't know. Maybe Nine Souls isn't their debut game. I don't know for sure if that's their debut or
well, it
not.
doesn't matter. It could have been in the indie game,
But it could have
like,
been in the independent. You could have had.
I
Yeah,
think it's a debut though.
yeah.
I don't know. I could
So
be wrong.
anyway, I'm really bummed Nine Souls didn't make it because that game is really great.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Um,
Nine Souls is good enough that if it was a contender in the Game of the Year category, I would have been like, I could see it. I
like
don't know that
instead
I
of
would.
Balatro.
I don't know. I think it deserved that more than Balatro, having played some of both of them. Like, I don't necessarily know that I would have picked it as the top Game of the Year choice, but I'm like, I feel like that's more in the conversation.
Yeah.
But that's
Yep.
my 2 cents.
Not to crap all over Balatro, but screw
I like
Balatro.
Balatro. I
I'm
like
just kidding.
Balatro. Yeah, I don't know.
So then we got the announcement. This was a huge announcement for if you know kind of sort of thing. But Onimusha, Way of the Sword. Mr. Tim
Yep.
Geddes was freaking the
Man,
freak
he
out over
was
this game.
losing his
But
crap.
I know nothing about it.
I
It
don't
looks
either.
kind of like a Sekiro type thing. I don't. I imagine it's quite different than its original form because it's an old game coming
Yeah.
back. So that's always exciting for the people who know. Like if a Sly Cooper came back or something,
Oh,
a
or
lot
Jack
more
and
people would know that.
Daxter.
But like
Oh
this
my
is
god,
if you
dude.
know Onimusha, this is probably like you know you're reacting like Mr. Tim Geddes
Yeah,
over it. Kind of
if they
funny. So
announced like a new Jack and Daxter game, I would be like what Tim Geddes was going through that night. So
exactly.
I get it. I'm excited. And hey, I love Sekiro. I love some of these other games. Like if this is cool, I'm down.
If it's cool, it'll be cool. The winner for Action Adventure went to Astrobot, who continues to clean up these awards. Let's see, other nominees. Wow, that could not have really gone to anyone else. Astrobot was going to win that one. As I'm looking through this
What were the
list,
other nominees?
Prince of Persia, Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. So
Yeah, the only other one that maybe is in the conversation is
that's a
Prince of
list of
Persia. But
just
it's
decent games, honestly.
but I think Prince of Persia is better than decent, but I don't think it's Astrobot good. So
Yeah. RPG went to Refantasio, and
that
let's
one
see, others
makes
were
that
Dragon's Dogma
one
2. That one makes sense to me.
yeah.
Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree. I feel like that could have been another one where Erd Tree would have gotten some love. Rebirth. I also feel like we need to redefine what an RPG is. Like this is such a
We
mess in
do.
2024. Every single game is an RPG. So like
Yeah.
we
It's
need some more stringent like
I know
guidelines
'cause
as to what
it's
that
like in
means.
terms of like picking points for your classes, like Erd Tree is like such an RPG, but then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is like the classic JRPG types, or maybe not JRPG, but
But I
like
would also argue that it's the least
redefined
RPG of these games, maybe
because it's
at
now
this point.
they've changed the formula.
It's watered down to the point where you don't really make a lot of choices about your characters anymore. You have a couple trinkets and that's it.
That's true. That's true.
You know?
Yeah, I feel like I
So
would probably go with Refantasio for best
yeah,
RPG.
agreed. I think that's probably fair as a
Yeah.
turn-based RPG. It
And what I've
feels the
played of
most
it in that category, like it feels like a very
yeah.
cool version of that. Yeah.
Sports racing, don't really care about that. Sim strategy went to Frostpunk 2, which was a little bit surprising, but I've heard really good things about that.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg came out to announce the best ongoing game, which was Helldivers 2, and I think deserving.
Yeah.
They've had a rocky 2024, but They have
They've had some
persevered.
ups and some downs. Yeah.
They did, and it seems like they're coming back into form. I think multiplayer and ongoing game were Helldivers 2 to lose easily. So
Yeah.
let's see. Oh, so here we got the announcement from the devs who made Overcooked. They're coming out with a new game called Stage Fright. And the reason I feel like this is worth just touching on really quick is earlier I mentioned I hope that Hazelight, I think they made It Takes Two, Joseph Ferris. I want them to be influencing this split screen co-op space in the industry.
Yeah.
And this kind of felt like Overcooked 2 is kind of going down that path a little bit. These
It did
devs,
feel like that a
they
little
had
bit.
like the
Yeah.
split screen. You're controlling two different characters who are like doing things to interacting with things to help the person on the other screen. So it kind of gave me that. I was like, oh, maybe we're starting to see some influence from It Takes Two pop up, which I would love to see.
Same.
We got a Game of Thrones mobile game announcement,
Yay.
which is just so apropos of that IP at this point.
It is, and it's like, it's a shame because the Game of the Thrones like universe and books are like top tier fantasy, and it's turned into this like joke because of where the TV show went, and then like mobile game. That's like, there's probably a good way to make a Game of Thrones inspired video game, but no, that's not it. It's also probably not the right time anymore, but
yeah, maybe another year or two. I don't know. Best adaptation went to Fallout, which I kind of saw coming from a mile away, but man, it's hard to give it to anything but Arcane 2. And I just feel like Arcane 2 might have been too close to the voting when it released.
That's kind of what I wonder. I don't understand
Season
how.
2 is just phenomenal.
I'm not quite done with Arcane Season 2, but I'm getting close. And
you have failed to send thoughts with each episode, by the way.
I have failed to do that, but I love it. It's incredible. I watched all of Fallout, and I liked Fallout. I thought it did a good job capturing the spirit of those games, like kind of the over the top, like violence mixed with like dark humor and kind of, you know, all of that. It's a little satirical, whatever. It's good. It was good. It was not Arcane good. And
not life changing.
I don't understand how anyone could put those two together and be like, yeah, that deserves to win.
It feels like a timing thing. It really does.
It does feel like a timing thing.
Also, Fallout was a new thing. Arcane Season 2 feels like it's getting a little less attention since it is the Season 2 and not like a brand new thing, maybe.
Which is a shame because it's like one is a masterpiece, you know. Fallout's a good show. Arcane is a masterpiece. But
all right, we're getting close. We're getting close here. It's a long episode. Snoop Dogg came out and performed, which was fun. It was fun watching everyone dance to that in the audience. That's what was fun.
Yeah, totally.
Best score went to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I think is deserving.
That's totally
from
there's a lot of good music.
The music.
The Final Fantasy VII music is so good, and the Rebirth score, the way it's that one is correct.
100%. Yeah. Sonic Racing Crossworlds was announced. We got just a teaser of a new Sonic Racing game, which is kind of cool. I'm always down for like an arcade kart racer type thing. Hopefully,
and I like a good Sonic game, and yeah, this looks fun.
Indie game, as we mentioned, went to Balatro. And then here's the other one where I was just like, come on, man. Mobile game went to Balatro as well. And that one bums me out because, first of all, Balatro didn't release on mobile at first. It was ported to mobile later in the year. And I just felt like we could have given some recognition to Wuthering Waves specifically is just, you know, this show had a lot of gacha Genshin-like games coming out. Like we're starting to see them pour in, and it's getting a little eye-rolly tiring. But Wuthering Waves actually is like a really, really well-made game.
Yeah.
And it just kind of was a bummer to see Balatro also take that when it's just like, oh yeah, let's port our game to mobile.
I did some research because I thought about buying Balatro on mobile as something to just play while I'm out and about.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things I heard is that it was kind of hard to play on mobile because it's like a lot of the details of the cards are really small and it's hard to read stuff. And I consistently heard that from a lot of places as I was researching. Yeah. So I ended up getting it on Steam Deck instead. It's just one of those things where it feels like Balatro is a great game.
You can't fight the Balatro wave.
No, but it's like in terms of what makes a game good on mobile, it really feels like, I don't know.
Which I guess the same can be said for Wuthering Waves.
That's probably true.
Pokemon trading card game Pocket is
that should have won. You're absolutely right. That should have been a game of the year contender.
So bare bones at this point. Audio design went to Senua's Saga 2. which I mean, I think fair
Sure.
enough for that. That one makes sense. That one really hangs
Yeah.
its hat on audio design. Um,
You know,
then
Astrobot.
we got.
Astrobot, I would say, is pretty good
I
too.
know
Like
I was pulling for Astrobot
I'm
because I
not
think
mad.
audio design
Senua's.
might be the best part of Astrobot.
I know. So it's tough because it's like I get that Senua Saga probably did some really cool stuff there too, but like
Yeah.
Astrobot's sound design was so good.
Actually, after this, we got one of my other highlights of the show. Aaron Paul came out with Laura Bailey
Oh
and
yeah.
looked like they were going to make out for about 5 minutes, but they announced their game.
Thankfully, her
They,
husband was in the audience.
yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure Laura Bailey. I think they're both married, but there was some
There,
interesting tension on stage
there
there.
was some, there was some
I was like,
chemistry, or maybe there was just some really good acting. Levi, let's
really
be
good
respectful.
acting. I was like, I don't know how Mrs. Paul and Mr. Bailey feel about this performance, but they announced their game Dispatch, which is a satirical take, kind of like a Tales of the Borderlands. No, maybe not, but like kind of in that vein of like narrative type of game where
Yeah,
you are dispatching superheroes to take care of crimes or things happening, and you
yeah,
have to. It has these like RPG elements where you have to send the right pairs of superheroes out, and then you're like in a corporate office doing this job, and there's antics that go on and dialogue choices, and the voice acting and humor just seemed
great.
on
Yeah,
point. Like
I'm
I don't
excited for this.
usually care about these types of games, but I was like, I am actively excited about this game.
Me too.
So
Me too.
I don't think we got a date on that one. I didn't write it down. I don't.
Um, no, I
Maybe
don't think
look
they
that
gave
up
us.
while I look
I don't
further
think they
down the
gave us a
list.
date on that one.
Best narrative went to Refantasio, which I think that one is fair enough too. I've heard really good things about the
The
narrative
narrative's
there.
really interesting, and it's taken some interesting turns. I haven't finished it yet, but
Yeah, I
I
hear it
think
has some pretty good stuff to say.
I think I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a contender, but it's in some ways retreading a narrative that already existed, and in other ways, the things it really deviates on
Are
it
contentious.
are contentious, and I think it's going to depend on how they resolve things in the third one. So it's
Yeah.
like for that reason, I think Refantasio is a good choice.
Yeah. Um, the next thing that was a big announcement that didn't do anything for me was the Okami sequel, which Geoff Keighley almost cried before announcing. Um,
And I think
I
I
was
think the
like,
Kind of
what
Funny
could
crew
this?
kind of went crazy over that too.
Yeah. But Jeff was like about to cry, and I'm like, what on earth could this? He's like, if you love video games, these are the moments you live for. And I was just like, what could this be? And then it was
And
something I have
I
no
was
idea
like,
what it is.
"What
So
is
I
Okami?"
was like, apparently I don't love video games. I don't know.
I know. I honestly don't even
What a way to
remember.
find out.
I don't even remember Okami at all. Like it's something I never played. It came out in 2006, I think, is what they said. So I was playing video games at that point. I just never heard of it, and that was back in the
Yeah.
day where
Back in the day, I was playing Madden, Gran Turismo, and Ratchet and Clank, and that was pretty much it. So,
yeah, I was playing a little more widely than
no.
you, but not. I don't know. I never like I was playing Zelda. Um I was playing a variety of things, but
I heard someone mention Okami in the same vein as like as a Zelda game. Like, is
I
it
think it
like
was
a
Tim
Zelda
Geddes
game?
or someone. It was one of the Kind of Funny people
Which has me
saying
curious. I'm like, if this can be a Zelda
they're
like
saying it was
game, then I
Zelda
could be
like,
interested.
which is sounds cool. Like I like
Yeah.
Zelda games. Yeah, so I don't know anything about
All
it,
right.
but I'm excited.
We reached the home stretch here. The final announcement, which I felt like this. I felt like there were better announcements that could have been the one more thing, but this is what they landed on as the one more thing. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, which I also think is a terrible name for a video game. But we figured out what
You didn't think
Naughty.
this was a cool announcement?
I thought it was cool, but as the for what a banger the showcase was, as the one more thing, for me it didn't. Like there were other announcements where I'm like they would have hit harder as the one more thing. This kind of felt like on par with some of the middle announcements for me.
Wow.
But I get that it's Naughty Dog. I get it. Everyone is
Even Naughty Dog aside, this was like one of the coolest things in the like.
yeah.
I agree.
I think this is probably the thing where we have the most different opinion on.
I think so. I mean, even aside from it being Naughty Dog, just like the retro future world and all of the cool tech, like her awesome laser sword, just everything about it looks so cool. And now, to be fair, this is just one trailer. It's hard to say like how good is this going to be as an actual game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is exciting in the way a reveal trailer is going to be exciting. And I also feel like that's kind of the good place to use a one more thing. Like it doesn't make sense to be like one more thing and then we're going to get gameplay
Agreed.
or something like
You
that.
could have inserted Witcher 4 here.
Right. I think this was a cooler thing to insert than Witcher 4. Because Witcher 4, we were all, I think a lot of people were expecting.
Knew about it already.
We knew. I also feel like we've seen Siri, we've seen the world a lot, and so it's cool to see it, and it's cool to see like the better graphics and all that.
Yeah.
We have not seen a new property from Naughty Dog yet, and a lot of people are like, are they even working on something? So this was exciting to see. Here's what they're working on. Like I think
Yeah.
this is the spot where you either do Naughty Dog, you do whatever Corey Barlog is working on. Like it's one of those, like that. It's one of those
That's
things.
what I'm waiting to find out. I keep waiting for the space game that Corey Barlog is supposedly
I'm excited
working
for
on,
that
but
too.
we
Like
just will never
I
know.
think, I mean, I think the thing is, it's probably not ready. You know,
I guess it's
but
been forever. The truth of the matter with this announcement is that I guess I'm just the wrong person. I have no connection to Naughty Dog. I never really played Jack and Daxter. I was playing
oh
Ratchet and
man,
Clank. I have not gotten into the Last of Us series at all. And so, well, I guess Naughty Dog did Uncharted, and I do love
they did do
Uncharted.
Uncharted. Oh
But
man, yeah, I love so
this
many
one to
Naughty.
me,
They also
my
did.
critiques of this are that I'm getting a little worn out of the Guardians quirky space vibe. That it feels like we're. I mentioned this to you earlier. We had the zombies era, where just like zombies became so tired and played out,
Mm-hmm.
and just everything was zombies. I feel like we're smack in the middle of the
Guardians of
quirky,
the
funny
Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy era, and this felt a little too close to that. Everyone wants to do that same thing.
This felt different to me. This felt grittier. This felt retro future. This felt Cowboy Bebop. Like I feel like the inspirations of this are so different than like Guardians of the Galaxy, at least from what I got out of that
Well,
one.
yeah, I need to see more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're not wrong. If it goes too much into the Guardians realm, I might not like that as much. I'm like, because
The
I'm getting a little.
protagonist didn't do it for me either. I'm kind of tired of the super like pompous, really snarky.
Yeah, I'm wary
I'm
of
just
like
kind of over
overly
that a little bit.
snarky. I'm wary of the overly snarky stuff, but I think it's too early to say, and they're gonna
Yeah.
like it's hard to get that from a trailer. I didn't get like Forspoken vibes or anything like that. Like, and
No, no, not that
I've played
bad. But
enough. I've played enough Naughty Dog stuff to think it's probably going to be pretty capably done, but we'll have to see. Either way, like
yeah,
all of the elements in this were just like, oh, so cool. Like
the very end is the part that got me a little bit when she pops that sword out and
that
goes to
sword
fight
is
the
like,
robot. That was really cool.
yeah,
Again, we don't know what the gameplay is going to be like. I would assume a third person action
I
game,
would
which
assume
Naughty
that.
Dog
I would
tends
hope.
to do. So, um, yeah, I guess I'm more down on this than I probably should be, but I didn't vibe with some of the choices in character design, presentation, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff that I got. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just at a certain point, it's like
Yeah.
you get tired of everyone wanting to do that over and
Yeah,
over. So
this
hopefully
felt very
there are different elements. I will agree with
totally
you.
like
So
this felt like so Cowboy Bebop. Like this feels like flavored by a certain style of like sci-fi retrofuturism and
it almost felt a
certain
little more maybe like 90s instead of
yeah
80s or something.
yeah
I don't know. Maybe
something
that's
like
the
that.
differentiation.
I don't know. I'm super hyped. I'm willing to admit we don't know enough to say how good this is actually going to be, but this was like one of the highlights of the show for me. Like this was up there with Split Fiction and some of the other
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm happy you're happy. Do we get this or Witcher 4 first?
That is a good question. I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, The Last of Us Part 2 came out in
You would think this, right?
2020, so I would think maybe this because
Because
they were
there's
still
been more
working on
cyberpunk
Cyberpunk
work.
last year. Yeah. But I know that
There's
like
all that wasted time on that multiplayer thing, though.
that's the other thing though, is like they
So
spent a lot of time on The Last of Us multiplayer game and scrapped it. I don't know how much of that time ate up. So kind of a toss up. I don't know that I could give a great prediction. I feel like both are like in the 4
yeah.
to 5 year timeline.
Well, the end was the game of the year, which went to Astrobot. Were you surprised Astrobot won the game of the year?
No, I wasn't surprised.
It
Everyone
felt like
loves
it
Astrobot.
should have gone to Astrobot.
That felt right to me.
2024 felt like Astrobot's year, I
It
think.
did. And I think for a lot of reasons, in terms of my personal game of the year, Astrobot doesn't take it for a couple of reasons, but I think it's quality enough to be a game of the year. And I understand like for
Yeah.
so many people why it is too. It's an incredible game. I love what they did. Balatro, it doesn't even make sense in this particular list, in my opinion, even though I like Balatro.
I know that's wild to me.
Black Myth Wukong, I feel like it was a stretch from what I've heard. I haven't played it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Elden Ring Shadow of the
to be
Erdtree
honest, of this
is a
list,
contender.
Erdtree is my game of the year. I understand there's contention about it's a DLC, but they need to fix that on the back end. That's not my job looking at this list. I'm
Yeah.
looking at the list, Erdtree wins.
I see the
So,
argument. It kind of becomes a semantic thing to me where I'm like, I don't know that I care that much. Like
yeah.
pick how you want the Game Awards to go, and I'll be
The only
as
reason
long as
it
I know.
matters is when you're picking game of the year. Ideally, you're thinking, I can recommend this to someone and they can go
Yeah,
play this.
that's
And
the biggest
Erdtree,
argument.
you can't just go play Erdtree.
All you have to
That
do
is the biggest argument.
is play 90% of Elden Ring and beat
Just 100
Moog, Lord
hours,
of Blood, in his palace. It's pretty easy.
reach level 250.
Yeah. Look, all you got
Yeah.
to do
So,
is cheese it. You just got to go to this place where you shoot a giant crow with an arrow 9 million
look,
times.
Zach, that is what you got to do. All
You
you
just
got to
gotta
do
go shoot a
is get it
crow.
on PC and download a save that has you right at the beginning of
Exactly.
Erdtree. And then you're
What
good to go.
if that doesn't smack of Game of the Year 2024?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I think the quality is so there to be a strong contender, but that one thing is a pretty good argument in my opinion. So I don't really care either way.
I can't wait to talk more about our game of the year 2024, where we can dig
Yeah.
into some of this more Astrobot versus other stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to shout out at the very end of this is actually, I thought the speech. So Sven Vinka from Larian Studios, they're doing a thing now where the winner of Game of the Year the previous year gets to announce this year's Game of the Year winner, kind of like passing the baton, which I think is really cool.
It's really cool.
Really
I
great
like that a lot.
concept.
Yeah.
And Sven gave one of the best, this alongside kind of the game changer part of the show. This was equally like one of the best moments of the show that weren't game announcement related. His speech about how to make game of the year. Who is going to win game of the year 2025? It's going to be someone who makes a game they want to play, a game that hasn't been done, a game that's not concerned with profits or like, exploiting players or exploiting the developers. A studio that understands if you make a good game that is fun, the revenue will follow. Like, just his speech is one I've actually watched 2 or 3 times because it is just so poignant and well spoken and impactful. And unfortunately, it's going to go in one year, not the other, of every single CEO or whatever that was watching or in attendance. But the fact that he stood up there and said it in front of all of them was just one of those really, really cool, impactful moments of this show that added to it feeling bigger than just game announcements.
Yep. It was nice to see such a big event and venue platform these types of conversations and give them a moment. And coming from someone who's made an incredible game in the past, released last year, one game of the year, like he has a lot of
and have
clout
done nothing
in the
but
industry.
put players first and their
Nothing but
developers
that.
first.
So it's like he's put his money where his mouth is, and then him coming out and saying like, "This is how you do it next year. This is what
It's not a surprise. This is how you win game of the year. It will be the same next year, and it keeps getting forgotten, and studio executives don't understand it, and blah blah blah. But man, just a great ending to the showcase. I thought this was 10 out of 10, and a great blueprint for next year. Like, I will really look. I hope that this isn't a lightning striking once situation. I hope they've found a formula.
Yeah.
And they can continue this, because I will really, really look forward to Game of the Year every year if this is what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And all it took
us
was nearly 2 hours to discuss it all. So,
there's a lot to say. It was
lots to look forward to, though. Some stuff in the way future, way off in the distance, but a lot of stuff in 2025. I'm, as we wrap up 2024, talk about our personal games of the year. We're going to have that coming out pretty soon. We'll also, I'm sure, do some discussion with maybe our fantasy critic league or whatever, looking into 2025 and all the cool stuff that we have coming, because now that we're kind of through the 2020, catastrophe, malaise, hangover, it feels like we're just getting banger year after banger year when it comes to
We've had a
video
lot
games.
of great years, and the past couple of years have all been great. And
last year was amazing. This year was amazing. Next year,
2025 is shaping up to be pretty good, and then we have a few things in the consecutive years that are looking pretty cool. So I'm excited. I just
stick around,
catch up on everything else real quick.
Yeah, just play all 400 of your backlog games in preparation for January.
I still got to go finish Baldur's Gate 3. I'm like barely into that.
Oh, dude, me too, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's going to happen.
I don't either.
All right. That'll do it. Thank you for joining us as we discussed Game of the Year award show 2024. And please look forward to our upcoming content. We're going to wrap up with what we played in December, our games of our top 10 list of 2024 personally, with a special surprise guest. I believe, if we can get him booked. He's really busy and hard to, very prolific.
I'll make a call.
Exactly. So that'll round out the year. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you in some of that future content.